Okay.
Good evening, Internet.
Dude, that's not Vietnam.
Well, the thing is, if you told someone it was your Vietnam, they would get very upset at you. Didn't that happen recently? Someone said, like, as a joke, like, something like, I don't know, like, Tumblr is my Vietnam or something, and
Tumblr's
turns
like
out,
Vietnam?
as an example,
Okay.
I wouldn't go there, and I probably wouldn't go to Vietnam either, so I guess Tumblr's my Vietnam.
Has anyone ever forced you to go to Tumblr?
I made a Tumblr once, and I used it for, like, 10 minutes.
See, my girlfriend loves Tumblr. It's all she wants to do when she gets home is just go to her computer and start Tumblring, and I
Okay,
don't
so
get it.
I need to know, because I have a Tumblr, and
Hmm.
I opened it up, like, probably 2 years ago, because it was around the time that I think Wind Waker HD came out. That was like 2.5 years ago, for the Wii U. And I've used it, like, a couple times to post stuff because there's a website that you can log into from your Wii gamepad browser
Hmm.
that'll post your screenshot directly to Tumblr at, like, the optimal, like, perfect resolution. So, like, if you post it to Facebook or email it to yourself, I think sometimes it loses some quality, but it'll post it, like, pixel for pixel to your Tumblr account. So I've used it a couple times to upload those kinds of things. Other than that, I don't know how to use Tumblr.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Sam has she was gone full MySpace with it and has all these extra programs that she uses that manages the whole thing and puts layouts on everything. And I don't know how it actually functions. I just know how her custom monstrosity works.
That's how Erin is with Reddit. She uses Reddit a lot, and I think it was when 3.6 Project M 3.6 was coming out, and I was on the Project M subreddit to like see exactly when it came out, when it was available for download, and I was just like refreshing it on my monitor, and she saw me doing that. She was like, "Oh, you should use this Reddit suite. It's way better." And I was like, "I'm not using Reddit. I'm using this very small, tiny, like square foot of Reddit
Yeah.
Yeah.
for this single solitary purpose."
Also, real quick, this is just like a quick aside, is I enabled the questions app, and now it says it's not enabled, so people can't like ask us questions unless they message me directly on Facebook or something. So we can discuss the merits of Reddit and Tumblr, which there are
Okay.
none, so that conversation is done.
Yeah,
Is
the
there
only
Q&A? Is that what that is?
Yeah,
Yeah, for me it
I
says this
enabled,
feature is disabled.
yeah, before the thing to make sure that we could do that, and it said this feature's enabled. Now it just says it's disabled. So whatever. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Just ping us on the Facebook, nerds.
Yeah, hit me up on Facebook to our Cyberzone page or like my personal Facebook or whatever, and we'll answer any question you have. I will literally answer any question you have.
Do you have to install it or
What, Tumblr?
no? The questions app thing.
No, it's like it's part of the little suite when you start up the application. But like I clicked it and it said this feature like you've just disabled it. So I clicked it again to say to enable it and make sure. And um, Hangout Toolbox, Michael.
Oh,
I'm gonna use
I'm
that.
just
I'm
this is fully featured.
enabling it. I don't even know. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, and usually I get works, but I don't know. Like I guess it defaults to on because it didn't used to. It used to default to off. So I clicked it to double check, and then clicked it again to re-enable it, and now it didn't work. So whatever. Unfortunately.
I'll be right back. I need to go flip the sign to closed, and I will return.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna click this button that's gonna make me take up the bottom third of the screen.
Oh, weird.
Oh, it says my name. That's fucking professional.
That's pretty sweet. Wait
That's
a
all
second.
Ooh.
correspondence style.
Hold on. How do
Yeah.
I have this? Where I'm enabling Toolbox. Hangout
Yeah.
Toolbox.
Yep.
All right. Hold on. I. It's telling me to give it permission, but then the window disappears before I can give it permission. How do you do that?
I just tried to do something and it says please enter a preset title, but please is spelled without an A. And it's just funny to see like a Google like notification. Plus.
Plesmond. Okay. Well, I don't know how to put my name down there.
So if you have Toolbox open.
So if I click it, it just tries to like enable it. It says it needs your permission to start, and then by the time I get my mouse over there, it's disappeared.
Weird.
I think
Yeah.
I got it on mine.
Yep, you do. I can't get my thing to say anything under my name though.
You just type in just a phrase underneath it.
Oh, and then you
It's your
close it?
catchphrase.
They're cheating. How do you do this? What? Both of you?
Yeah.
There we go. There it is.
Step up your Google Hangout game, John.
Hold on, you guys.
I'll be right
All
back.
right, all right. Let's not say anything. Let's just John do this.
I believe in you.
I might have to reload the room for myself because it straight up won't let me click it. If I click the toolbox, I don't get options. It just makes my window disappear. Oh, you guys are butts. Okay. No, actually, it's interesting. I'm gonna reload. I'm just gonna try to get this done early on so we know what's going on.
Okay.
All
right.
I'm gonna see if this reload properly for us.
Yeah. So if you guys out there in Cyberzone Land have any questions, you can ping us at our individual Facebooks, Michael Radon or John Sakura, or you can go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/CyberzonePodcast, and you can type in any questions you want to ask, any questions at all, and we'll do it. We'll think about that question. We won't say anything. It won't be a two-way exchange, but you can pretend.
Hold on.
Okay. We can make our own logo. That's cool.
So, you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Hold on. Please enable. I'm trying to do it.
Yay!
Yay!
You did
Okay.
it.
I don't like it because on my screen it appears backwards.
Yeah.
Very uneasy. Whatever. Okay. Anyway, yeah, today's been an interesting day, and
Okay.
this would actually be a good opportunity for this podcast to sort of discuss because people know me as generally a pretty happy dude,
Yeah.
and I am. That's very much my core personality, but there are just some days that just don't feel good, and inexplicably. It's not like there was an event that happened or I had to get my car taken care of this week and ended up causing a bunch of money. And that sucks, but it was doable and it was taken care of. But I woke up this morning and I just felt bland. It was just one of those days where everything seemed a little hazier and a little more monochrome, and just things I wasn't inspired. What really didn't help this, by the way, holy cow. What really didn't help any of this is the fact that so it got really cold the past couple days just out of nowhere, right?
Oh yeah.
Something happened and suddenly it starts snowing, and I had my AC, or not my AC, I had my heater turned off because the past 3 days before that had been really warm. We'd been 70, 75 degrees. Been a really good couple days, and so I woke up this morning and my room was just frigid. And I was like, "What's going on?" So I walked out into my hallway to check my thermostat, and it's set to heat to try to heat my house up to 72 degrees, and it's just blowing cold air, and so it's just 55 degrees in my house actively. It's shooting for that, and I don't know what's going on. So I'm really cold, and
Your pilot's not out, is it?
no, I reset it. I did that for everything because a couple weeks ago my pilot went out for the water heater, so I reset that. That's all good to go now. And I checked my pilot for the actual heater. I reset it and it's fine, but it's just really cold in my house. So that sucks, but at least it's funny, right?
Yeah.
It is pretty funny.
Yep.
But it doesn't really help the mood exactly because being really cold. I was trying to play some Mega Man earlier, and I was I'm going to go through some of the Mega Man Legacy Collection on the Xbox and finish up some achievements. And I was doing really poorly because my fingers were cold, and I was just man, this is frustrating. I can't do anything. And I made a hot meal, and I just sat around, and I was just feeling just crummy. Nothing, no reason. I was trying to think there's nothing specific. The store's doing the cats are my friends, they're all over me today, just nothing was going on. I just felt bland for no reason, to the point at one point even of just tearing up inexplicably. There was nothing that caused it, and I was just talking to a friend. She called me up and we were just chatting for a little bit, and I just started feeling like I was welling up, and I was like, what's going on? Why is this happening? And I just chalk it up to just one of those days where I think I needed like some sort of like emotional output that I haven't done for a while. I am a very big proponent for crying periodically because it's a really strong release of tension, and without the ability to release that, you can really build up, and I feel it can be detrimental. For me anyway, it is. And if I don't have that kind of outlet, it affects me very, very much. And so I think I just sort of let myself do that today, and that helped a bit. And then I went for a run. I went to the gym. I went and met up with a friend to discuss some art stuff for the shop. And I felt a little bit better since then. But like overall, the overall mood of the day was just, you know, it would not have been fun or pleasant to hang out with me because I would have been sitting there feeling crummy and not contributing anything. And I think because my normal persona and activity is to do that, to push that and promote that all the time, you know, like at the store, it's nonstop that sometimes I don't get the release of solitude that I feel that I need, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
was that me?
Is that me?
That is me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're echoing.
Oh. I was gonna say I think there's like two different approaches to that, and one is that, yeah, sometimes like if you spend so much time around other people that you need like a chance to decompress solo, like that's one definite way to approach that. And the other way to approach that is to say, you know, I'm always the facilitator, I'm always the one bringing this positive energy, and today is when I need someone else to fill in that role for me, so I can just sort of coast off that and calibrate off that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting how the dynamic works because by the time this is my weekend right now, is Wednesday, Thursday are my 2 days off, and I try to focus on keeping those non-work oriented because otherwise, like I'm still in that mindset, I'm still in that zone, and I'm still sort of pushing for being at work, you know, doing stuff for the store, and of course there's sometimes things I need to take care of that are imperative. But I really try to keep it on like a let's watch some Netflix, let's play a video game, let's, you know, work on some more paintings, let's go outside, let's do this, let's do that. And if I don't actively like participate in that, it does take a toll. But it's interesting because after being at the store so long throughout the week, by the time I get home, I actually don't really want to play video games, and I don't necessarily want to interact with people. And it's not because I dislike either of those, because that's very much the core of who I am, but I feel that I need some respite from that activity that, like, when I get home after a long day, I don't want to play games. I don't want to sit down and veg out with a game. I want to actually, like, do something else. I want to round myself more, and sometimes I feel like I'm almost shoehorned into, you know, well, I'm just surrounded with video games, but I don't want to be. And that's, you know, it doesn't really take hold that often, but it does come up every now and then as sort of a, I need, you know, a bigger scope ultimately, and I think sometimes I don't have that scope immediately available that late at night, and so I feel kind of like, I don't want to, you know, I want something new, I want something different. So, I need a vacation. Like, legitimately, not just not being at the store, but, like, actually being away and getting, like, a brand new breath.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. Go down to Mexico and eat some hermit crabs and, you know, drink some La Lloronas on the beach.
Yeah. 'Cause we'd actually discussed something about this similar. Sam and I were talking about you and what would ever happen if you got somebody to manage the East Side store. Like, if you got to the point where you didn't have to do it, and you got somebody else in, that would be the worst job anyone could possibly have, because every day they would walk in trying to talk to you and then just be disappointed. That guy's entire life would just be people walking in and going, "You're not John." Because your job is to be smiley, happy, "Hey, how's everyone doing," guy.
Yeah, it's
Whereas I live in the opposite world where everyone just always assumes I'm sad or angry for whatever reason, like constantly. To where if I'm in a good mood, people are confused.
if someone's having a bad day, they know they can go share the bad day with you.
Which sucks because I'm actually in a great mood all the time.
I know, you know, it's like a very different way, so it's really funny to do that. But yeah, it's the expectations that are projected onto different people are interesting, and I genuinely love it. I love helping people. I love being there for people. I love giving everything I can at the store. But by the time I'm out of that environment, you know, I really need something different. And if I have any sort of connection to that environment, it can still be mentally taxing. And that's something, you know, I think to watch out for, because owning a video game store is a great job. It's a wonderful thing. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that is a tremendous amount of work. and I don't mind doing it because I love what I can provide outside of that. But the disconnect from work, because it's still work, it's still a lot of energy to put out there,
Yeah.
and personal time, there has to be like an actual difference. And I feel like by the time I get home, it doesn't necessarily, it bleeds together, and so I don't necessarily want to be in that by the time I get home.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the personality that you've cultivated over so many years, is that there's a very and it sucks that it's this way because it shouldn't be that way, but for people who don't know better, there is no distinction between John and Gamers Anonymous.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And really there is.
Yeah.
And you have working hours, and there are times when you don't want to be one or the other.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
No, it's 100%. Like, someone called my store, the West Side store, asking for the manager, and I was like, "Oh, I'm the manager. What can I do for you?" And they're like, "Oh no, I meant John." I'm like, "Well, John doesn't work down here. He works at the other store." They're like, "Oh, well, when's he gonna be in there next?" I'm like, "He's not here." Like, it's a whole business. It's not just John.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or John.
One
Yeah.
store. And this is one of the big things I've actually discussed with a lot of people is if I just had the one store, it would be a lot easier for me to like sort of properly cultivate full personality around that. But with two separate stores, it's different. The expectations are very, very different of being able to provide multiple personas, which I can't do. Simply like that doesn't happen. And it's a lot of work to try to maintain that because I mean even outside the store. I've probably told you guys some of these stories before. I was walking through a Walmart at like 1 in the morning 5 years ago. I was dating Lex at the time, and we were just shopping for some whatever. And some dude stops me and he goes, "Dude, you're the guy from Gamers Anonymous." I was like, "Yeah, what's going on, man? How are you?" And he goes, "Oh man, I'm doing really great. Do you guys have any PS2s?" And I was like, "It's 1 in the morning, and unfortunately, I would love to help, but I want my own disconnect, and on top of that, I have no idea what the current inventory is because I'm not at the store." And it's not that I don't want to help these people. It's not that I have no desire to constantly do these things, but there comes a point where I can only do so much outside of the store, and I also need to maintain two separate personas in a sense. There's the work bit, and then there's the actual I'm living my life and not stressing out all the time over things bit. And there are times when it blurs together, and there are times when I can separate it. And I think the times where it does sort of overlap does become kind of cumbersome for me. And that's one of the things that actually might be contributing to this is if the store is always on my mind, it's a lot harder for me to actually have a day where I'm just relaxing.
Yeah, I struggle from that because I work at home.
Right.
So it's like people don't understand necessarily that if I'm here, I'm technically at work. Like I'm always have the possibility to be doing something productive with my time. And so it's really hard for me to just take a breath and not do anything when I'm at home. Which is the main reason why I don't carry a phone, is so that when I leave the house, I have absolutely no tether to my work life. So people are like, "Oh, you should get a phone." I was like, "No, because then I can check my email, because then I can check my Facebook, because then I can check all these things and not have any sort of space that I can retreat to."
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
It's good to have a sort of a safety zone, like a genuine away from people. Mm-hmm. And what I try to do this as well too is I like the idea of on a day off, leaving my phone plugged in by my bed on silent, so that way whatever is going on, I'm not in that area. I am outside somewhere else doing something. I'm in my living room. I'm in my office here, or I'm taking care of other things and not constantly relying on that being connected. And that can be rough. That's a really big thing. I think a lot of people, and I when I discovered this for myself, it was kind of a big revelation. But I did some research on it, and essentially what it's called is information overload. And the idea of having everything at our fingertips all the time kind of creates this sort of reliance on technology, and it can be a detriment to the self. And this, I actually had sort of like a huge breakdown. But some years back, it was a breakdown. I had to be sort of called out on it because I wasn't aware that I was doing it. But when you have Google and you have Facebook and you have Instagram and you have all these things that are constantly updating with information, and you feel the need to constantly cycle into that all the time because literally within a minute more information is on its way from however many people, however many sources you've got, and it's so easy to get caught up in that you can lose track and you can lose focus. And I actually had to delete a lot of stuff from my phone in order to regain myself, to refocus. Yeah, and that's a problem that I recognized that I had, and it became something that I'm aware of, and I think I'm getting to the point where I might need to do something along those lines again. And it's hard because I want to stay connected to the store and to our Instagram and to our Snapchat and to this and that and the other thing, but it's overwhelming because it's at the push of a button. It's right there all the time, and I don't want to get too sucked into that again.
Yeah. Start with deleting Tumblr. That's the first thing I would do.
That's because I use my Tumblr 15 hours a day. I think I have up to 6 pictures on my Tumblr ever, and it's probably very boring.
So I don't have a Tumblr, and I've been told that I have an Instagram somewhere that exists.
Rumor has it. Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just got a picture of me in a purple wig from at some party 4 years ago.
Great.
And that's it. I have Facebook and an old MySpace, and that's my entire social media existence. And I guess I have a Google Plus, but again, I haven't checked it. Having a Google Plus doesn't count as having something.
Yeah, Google Plus is literally the smallest means to an end I've ever encountered.
Yeah, it's when I was advertising our Laser Team event thing that we're doing. I was I went to Google Plus, maybe I should throw something in here, and I was nah, not worth the effort.
But yeah, in spirit of tonight's sort of Cyber Zone, which is again Cyber Zone of a very different flavor, it's going to be less focused on games and everything that we have going on all the time, but more about what it's like as people to interact with other people and to express emotion to other people, and it's hard. Do you guys ever have moments where you just sort of need to get away, where you need to sort of stop? We need to.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm so fueled by making people, by hosting things for people, bringing people in and making sure they're having fun and making sure that they have a safe place they can go to be themselves and not have to deal with other stuff. That really gets me going, and I don't really get tired of that. And it's something that other people that I live with, people that are in my life, they get tired of, and it's not a problem that I run into, so it's sort of a challenge to balance that. But the thing that gets me is when I have an expectation of someone or a group of people and that expectation falls short, then it's really that disappointment hits me really hard. So that's when I need to be okay, I need some personal time. It almost feels like a punishment in the end, where it's you didn't do this thing I wanted, so now nothing for anybody. But really, it's just I need to digest that disappointment, and that's not necessarily fair disappointment, but I need to process those feelings, and it's not productive for me to bring a vindictive attitude into an environment where it's supposed to be a safe haven for people.
Sure. So what do you do to balance that for yourself? Because I know if you try to give 110%, there's merit in that. But if it gets to the point where you're sort of running on empty because you're giving so frequently, the overall quality of what you're attempting to give diminishes based on the fact that you're running dry. So how do you sort of take a step back and do what you need to do?
I'm actually pretty bad at it right now. I've been so booked solid. I want to get a more routine to my day where I want to work out for an hour a day, and I want to stream for ideally 4 hours a day, but still get in an 8-hour work day and still get in seeing all the people I want to see, and that's not possible. There's not enough time in my day for me to do all the things I want to do, and there never has been. I am not a unambitious person, so I guess I'm fortunate with my circumstances that I have sort of an auto balancer, which is that I have a terrible sleeping habit, and we've talked about this before.
Right.
So there's a week out of every month or two where I am just waking up at 8 p.m. and going to bed at noon. And during that time frame, I am ridiculously productive because I can't see anybody. It just doesn't fit into that lifestyle. Right? By the time people are getting up or getting off of school or work, I'm asleep. And by the time I'm waking up and ready to function, they're gearing down for bed. So that's kind of nice, and it's always sort of bittersweet where I get in that mode and I'm just thinking like, man, I'm getting so much stuff done. Like I should just stick with this. But then I realize that I'm not seeing people. I'm not benefiting. They're not benefiting me, and I'm not benefiting them, and so it sort of wraps around. But that's sort of how it's a long-term plan. Like there can be weeks at a time where I don't get anything really done for myself, other than the things that I set aside for me to do professionally, and then the things I set aside to do for other people. But then I get this sort of like self-imposed or body-imposed vacation from it all. Sure. For a week or so.
What about you, Graham? What do you do to sort of recharge your batteries?
See, my problems are different than your guys because mine's not. No one expects me to be a personality. I'm not really hosting things for anybody. All of my problems stem from the fact that my family basically expects me to be like the caretaker for everybody. Like all my friends and family, pretty much everyone pre-you, John. I had to make sure they didn't die on like a daily basis because they were all morons and just couldn't exist.
Natural selection is being disrupted by you.
Yeah. Well, you've heard of DJ. Like that's been my life. It's just keeping idiots alive and making sure everything worked out. But the parts, like I recently got burned out when I was talking to you on the phone about the stuff with my uncle and stuff like that. Like that was me burning out because right after, like, my uncle got put in the hospital, so of course I had to drive around and be out until like 4 in the morning making sure everything was arranged and taken care of. And then I got home and I had my brother call me the next day, or actually later in the week, to pick up to get my uncle picked up from the hospital. And I was like, I can't do it. I'm at work. And the response to that was, you're supposed to do it. Like I was legitimately told it was my job to go do it. And he just he was so put out. He was already at my uncle's house. He just had to go pick him up and take him there, and it was still my responsibility to do it.
Dang.
So for me, unwinding's super easy because no one expects me to be anywhere ever. So I just go on my back porch and just stare off into the desert for an hour or two.
Okay.
Kind of creepily.
Rebalance.
Just get away from I don't bring my phone with me. I don't do anything. I just go sit out there by myself with my dog and just stare out into the desert and hate the universe for an hour and a half.
That's kind of nice.
And then I'm fine.
Yeah, rebalance, refocus. It's tricky, and because also you still have, a presence at the store now. You've actually put yourself out there as a presence of the West Side Store, not just in hey, I'm the manager, but as in also hey, I'm running Sunday Night Gaming, and people also want a chunk of your time because they're now hey, Michael's going to be there. I want to play him at Smash Brothers, or I want to do that with him, and it's and so there still is an element of people who have projected onto you.
Yeah, and it does have that drain because obviously I wasn't able to make it for a couple of the Sunday Night Gamings, and I immediately started getting Facebook messages and stuff like that, where were you tonight? Blah 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 and blah blah blah. I only came to play Smash Bros against you. And I was like, well, real life happened, but.
Yeah.
So, to a very minimal degree in comparison to you, I do have, those obligations.
Sure.
But, see, for me, it's it's a small facet of my personality. Mm-hmm. For you, that's your entire personality as viewed by the outside world.
Always trying to do as much as I can. I really legitimately want to. This also brings me up to something that I wanted to discuss, because I have a very difficult time, and I would love suggestion. I would love figuring this out, but maintaining a set schedule outside of my work hours, which, it's only 40 hours a week, and that's totally fine. But outside of that, there are things that I want to do. I want to start a solid Twitch channel, which says every Tuesday and Thursday, here's my hours, here's what I'm going to play. But there are so many variables in my life, whether it's people who come into town who only have the one day, or it's somebody who's having a crisis, or something comes up at the store. And because of these factors, I find it unbelievably difficult for me to commit to a time outside of actually being at the store where I can do anything as a guarantee, and I pretty much can't. So what do you do when it comes to trying to maintain and regulate a schedule that you can adhere to constantly? Because I can't. Even like, I want to play Grand Theft Auto on Saturday with you guys every night after, my shift at the store, but things come up. Sometimes people can only hang out Saturday night, and there's so many variables. I don't know how to put something together that will allow me to like do things consistently, balancing my store life, my social life, and my personal life. I don't know how to do that because it's so much to do.
Well, I mean, that's like the riddle of life itself, pretty much. But like for me, the easiest way of doing that is I have to have other people who are counting on me to be somewhere, because otherwise I'm not going to show up. Like if it's just like I want to go here and do this thing, then I know when time comes for me to do it, I'm not going to because I don't want to put pants on. Like it comes down to something as simple as that. But if I know Sam or somebody's meeting me somewhere, then I have to go. Like it's like I need other people to depend on me. It's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, continue.
I treat it the way, like, first of all, I'm the wrong person to ask about this because I'm really bad about it. But because of that, I've got a couple creative solutions, and one is just that: treat it like gym buddies. Like if you make an obligation, if you make a commitment to someone that you're going to do this thing at this time, and then you have to be able. It really. This is something that I struggle with. It's that idea that you can't always be doing everything with everyone, right? That you can potentially. It's like you want to watch every television channel at once, but realistically, you can only watch one, maybe two, depending on what your setup is. So. It's the reason why I tend to mess up my sleep schedule is because people who want to stay up late, I'm like, well, if they're here and they're having a good time, like I'll stay up with them. But realistically, like you can only really obligate yourself to one thing at a time. And so if you tell someone you're going to do this thing and then someone comes up with a better offer, I read an article about this actually about how not so much our generation, but the generation after ours, but I feel like there's some bleed over. Are really bad about commitment to activities. They're like Facebook maybes and things like that, and it's because it's that information overload. They know that something else could come along, and so they don't want to commit to something fully because of the potential that something better might happen. And you can't approach. It makes you a shitty friend ultimately because you're saying like, oh, I might do that thing with you. But the reason you might do it is because something better might come up or something more urgent might come up. Like it's more important ultimately to say, like, this is you're proposing this. I could block off that time. You're the first person to ask me to block off that time. It sounds like fun, so I will do that. And any subsequent things that come up, unfortunately, my time is booked. I can't because I've already committed to this other person. The thing that I do. Is I change my schedule every month or two. I'll make a schedule, and it's fresh, and it's exciting. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this at this time, and I'm going to do this at this time, I'm going to do it this way, and in this order. And then after a week or two, it starts to get routine, and it starts to get drudgy, and it's a chore to do it. And when it gets to the point where it's like I'm not even doing it because I know that it's just killing time, basically, that it's arbitrary that I've set this up in this way, I scrap it and I redo it again. And I'm going to do it this order now. And I'm going to do this thing first. And I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do it on this day. And then this day is my day to relax. And this is my time to just like not look at the internet. So by constantly reorganizing my life on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, it reinvigorates me over time to say like, okay, well now I'm going to do it this way and that's going to be fun. And when it just gets to the point where it's not functional, then I redo it again. Okay.
So I actually like the idea of breaking it up. So every like month or two, you rewrite your schedule, you redo, you re-administer. So I think what I'm having a difficult time with is figuring out, like, it's easy for me to put plans like Twitch streaming aside, because if there's other things that could be happening with people, I'd rather prioritize the people situation. But then it makes it difficult for my schedule where, you know, I'd love to actually become a prominent YouTuber or, you know, like a Twitch streamer or whatever. I think it would be a lot of fun to actually have like an active following, but I can't commit the time solidly because, you know, like I might have it is those variables, and because the Twitch is lower priority to me than someone who says, hey, I'm in town for the day, I want to go bowling. okay, I'm going to prioritize you going bowling because you're here for a limited amount of time, and I could stream literally whenever.
Yeah.
So it's hard because I want to regulate a schedule of my social, online presence, but that's tough for me to do without wanting to prioritize people who want to do something. Yeah.
You have to self-regulate that because the simplest solution is to incorporate people. Like if you want, I could solve my problems the same way. If I really wanted to stream for 4 hours a day, but I can't because people are always coming over, I should invite them to be part of streaming. And this way, it solves. You have to hold yourself accountable to a certain degree,
Sure.
but it solves the problem of because I feel the same way. I feel like, and I think I feel the same way. Tell me if I'm right. I give up so much of my time to other people and like to making sure they're having fun and like making sure that they're enjoying life, because to me, it's the only way I can deal with mortality is to think of like making other people's lives better, even on a tiny scale, is the only way that it's like it's okay to live and die if someone else is happy because of the what little sacrifice you make for them.
Sure. That's philosophy. We'll get into this too. In fact, I'd really like to get into that whole conversation because this is definitely something that helps.
Yeah, I have stuff to say on that as well. But
yeah, absolutely. I think it's nice to sort of prioritize people and make that sort of judgment call of, will this make this person happy, and not for your own benefit, because it's very easy to get caught up in the, well, if I do this for this person, then they'll do that for me later because they have to, because I obligated them, like you pay it for yourself, which is unfortunately a very crummy way to go. If you want to, I don't actually want to reserve judgment. If that's what you want to do, if your whole thing is trying to win people's favors all the time,
just checks and balances the whole time.
Right, if that's your whole thing, hey man, you can go ahead and do that all you want, but eventually people catch on to it and it catches up with you, and it sort of crashes and burns after a while.
So if you self-obligate yourself to someone, like if you said like, okay, Michael comes over on Fridays and I want to stream on Fridays, so I'm going to ask Michael if he wants to stream with me, and if he's amenable to that, then you're killing two birds with one stone. You're accomplishing what you want to do, and you're spending time with someone else, and that can rotate too. Like, well, Tuesdays I spend time with this person, so okay, do they want to stream? And because it feels a little selfish when you're proposing it, because it's like, hey, do you want to come over and do this thing that I want to do with my life, like that I want to dedicate this time to? Right. And if they're not into it, then they're not into it, and you have to figure out where that lies into your whole plan. But ultimately, what this allows for is, if you can hold yourself accountable to the day-to-day, if you can hold yourself accountable to, like, I am going to do this with this person, and I will feel bad if I don't because I'll be letting this person down, then when those situations come up where, hey, I'm in town, I want to go bowling, then you've still got a backup plan, right? Because it's not so much that with something like Twitch or with YouTube, it's not so much that you are doing it as it is you are doing it for someone. So if there's still output, if there's still production, then ultimately people are still being served.
Yeah.
So then you can say like, oh, Michael, it's Friday, I know we're supposed to stream, but I've got a friend who's out of town, and they're in right now, and I want to do this thing with them. Can you handle this? Can you bring someone else in to fill my spot for the day?
Sure.
And then we'll do it again next week.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way, like you're doing one thing, because you can only ever do one thing. When you try and do more than one thing, either results suffer or it doesn't get done.
Right.
So you're doing this one thing, this one special circumstance, but at the same time, the thing that you wanted to get done is still getting done. That's my suggestion.
See, I'm not useful in this conversation because, again, it's weird that the three of us get along to the degree that we do, because my personality is almost a direct opposite of your guys's.
Yeah. I disagree. I think if I had to put us on a scale, I would put you two as the poles, and I would be in the middle. Because I think
that's fair.
Because I think like extrovertedly, I follow a lot of John's tendencies, and then when it's like just you and me hanging out, it's just like, oh, fucking people.
Right. It's one of those things. Like, for me, when I'm making plans or I have to decide where to spend my time, people are like, I have this plan, and people are like, hey, come do this, and I'm like, no. I had this other plan. Like, it's like, and it's not offensive or it doesn't feel like I'm letting them down or anything because it's just I already had a plan. Sorry, like there wasn't any like me being mean to them or anything. It's just, which
Yeah,
I know.
this is already done.
And John, the reason why I love him as a friend is because he is that people pleaser. He will bend over backwards to make sure that you are having a good time. Whereas I'm like, you're not hurt. We can move on with, like, as long as no one's dying, I feel no obligation to them whatsoever. Like, beyond general human decency, like, nothing is really obligated for me. It's like, be nice to people, and then that's it.
It's a good philosophy. Be nice to people.
Yeah, that falls under the philosophy conversation we were talking about. But yeah,
Yeah.
And that's part of my problem is I kind of actually, as much as John wants to back away from being, not, I don't know if that's the right word, back away from being the center of attention guy all the time, I kind of want to move more towards being a personality, you know? Because what I was talking about earlier, the whole, you know, everyone thinks I'm angry or sad all the time. Again, you guys know me, and I'm not. I'm a silly, just odd human being for the most part. And then I have such a, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, I just blanked on it, but everyone knows me as being, you know, that guy, the angry guy and stuff, that I was at a Smash Bros. Tournament, and I was dancing, and someone was legitimately uncomfortable that I was dancing because I'm not supposed to be displaying that much emotion. Like, it's, I don't know. That's kind of why I wanted to start streaming at the shop and doing silly stuff like that, is so people can get a view of me aside from the quiet, angry guy.
Yeah, they get when it's because it's not like a persona that you're putting forward, right? You're not like, this is how I'm going to act to people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just people pick on like weird minor cues and they add up to a perception that they make, whether or not it's true.
Mm. Yeah, I have a generally monotone voice, and a lot of the times I'm staring off into space. Like, that's all it is. As soon as you interact with me, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Something about black people. I don't know. Like random jokes and stuff. And yeah, and then as soon as I'm done with that, it's just back to them. And everyone thinks I hate them again. I don't know. I don't feel the need to constantly be outputting, so it makes me come off as
Have you considered a bold necktie? Maybe something with like pizza slices on it?
Well, that would be good. You left your purple necktie here for like 3 years.
I did do
But you actually you touch up on something that's really important for me, and this is sort of a business philosophy for the shop, and something that's extremely important to me that I don't see a lot. Is people who know me know that like I run things in a very specific way. I have like a certain amount of personality that I put into the store to where, you know, when people interact with me or come to my shop, it's not just a video game store. It's something that I want people to walk in and feel comfortable, feel welcome, feel accepted, you know, and no matter what games they play, whatever they feel about, you know, this or that or whatever, anybody who walks into the store, it's important for me that they feel like they are welcome back no matter what they're doing. If they're coming in to browse, if they're coming in just to hang out, if they actually want to buy something, any of those are valid to me because the store is a safe haven and a sanctuary for people who feel like no matter who you are or what you've grown up with or what difficulty you've had in your life, the store is its sanctuary. It's a place where you can feel safe, period, where nobody will ridicule you for your taste, nobody will make you feel bad about a game you bought or didn't like or whatever it is. And so a very large part of what I was actually trying to do with the website for a while was write articles that were not just reviews or, you know, talking about the industry, but talking about myself and how I interpret things and, you know, why I do what I do with the store. And so when people can identify a personality like, you know, you with the store, and you make posts on the Facebook page that say, hey, my name's Michael, I'm doing this, come on down, check it out, say hi to me and everything, that's 90% of it, is people who can identify with the people who are working there, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's important for people to know that when I do what I do, you know, I'm going to make mistakes. There are judgment calls that I will mess up on. There are times when I will be doing what I do, and I don't do it right all the time, because that's how people are. Fundamentally, we're all flawed, and we just are trying to work through that constantly, learn from our mistakes, and push forward until we can give people the experience that they want and deserve. So it's super important for me to put that forth because my personal philosophy is really just trying to give and trying to accommodate and trying to exude just everything that I can to make somebody's life better. Not, to the point where the store is going to burn down because I'm giving away free Xboxes all the time to make everybody happy, because that's bad for business, and ultimately that would, be a detriment to me, my employees, my cats, the whole 9 yards. But it's, it's one of those things where you have to sort of put forth, and the only expectation is that somebody's going to walk away with the best possible experience, even if it's not the optimal outcome, where there are sometimes things we can't do at the shop. There are sometimes games we don't have in stock. There are sometimes situations under which we cannot provide a service, and that's going to happen. It always sucks, but I still want people to have the best experience in spite of those things. And giving that to people are limited to what they get during their 10-minute interaction with me at the shop. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less, but that's what people's perception is. And it can be very difficult and very draining at times to take it all in constantly and having to be juggling a million different things that people are never going to see that I don't really talk about because it's just my job to do those things. My job is to keep the gears turning and the fires burning, and not everybody's going to see that, and I'm okay with that. But that's why I like having an outlet where I say, this is where I grew up with gaming, and this is what I think of this situation, and this is why this social, hot topic, is important to me at the store. It's important that people know that Gamers Anonymous and what I do is it's a human experience, and it's by somebody who loves what they do so much. And I'm not out to make $1 million. I'm not out to be crazy rich. I'm here to provide whatever I can without destroying myself in the meantime.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like the best interaction with anybody is any store I've ever gone into as a kid, or any customer service experience I've gone into, was when people went out of their way to make sure that whatever was happening was the best possible outcome for the parameters that were given. Even if it's something they couldn't do, they still made me feel like they tried their hardest and they did their best, and if they couldn't do it for themselves, they pointed me in the right direction to ensure that we did what was possible. And it's cool to be able to do that because people have pointed it out and people have given it, and people also sometimes aren't just going to see it, and that's that's part of it. That's just part of the job, is knowing that it's not always going to go as planned. But I like having that connect with people, because my philosophy is very much to love and to give love and to be love and to put that forth. And whether it's personal relationships or it's friendships or it's interactions with a customer, it is to be the best possible version of myself for that person while it's happening all the time.
That's a lot. That's a lot to take on. It's a lot to shoulder.
And
my philosophy is a little different, where it's not so much I would like to be the best possible person for people, but I'm not strong enough. I've not really been able to pull that off for most people. I get tired, I get impatient, I get distracted, or what have you. So I kind of look at myself the way that you would say, like, well, there's John and there's Gamers Anonymous, so there's Michael and there's GA West.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my sort of my personal self and my business self, and business self doesn't just envelop work things. It also does, like when I have people over to play fighting games or on Friday nights, or when people come over and they want me to help them get better at playing DDR or whatever. If they want me to help them, give them advice with streaming or whatever it is. They just want to sit and talk about video games. Like, to me, I have this divide between introvert and extrovert where I don't really feel like I'm either, because I feel like two different people when I'm by myself and when I'm around other people. And so ultimately, I've got a brand, right? There's me, and this is private, and like some people get to see this, but when I'm trying to be amenable, when I'm trying to be a good person, ultimately that's when I'm being not disingenuous, but when I'm not allowing myself to put my foot in my mouth and do or say things that I shouldn't be doing or saying, that's the brand. That's where I'm looking and saying, like, oh, I can't say that. Like, that'll cause problems.
Mm.
So it's a double-edged sword, because like working in different phases of tiny retail shop to giant corporation, On the one hand, it's great to give people the person as opposed to the brand, because then you're allowed to kind of bend things a little bit, and people will say like, oh, well, if the brand can't do that, you tried, you as the individual tried, and that makes a difference, and I understand that. And it it gives you some leeway, and it gives you the opportunity to make things more human and more personal. But then the flip side of that coin is that when it's not just a one-man operation, when the person and the brand aren't the same thing, there potentially could be, and there probably already has been, some kind of situation where, someone will go to one store and say like, oh, well, I wanted this thing, and Michael said he couldn't do that, so I'm going to go talk to John, because John could do that. John would do that. And it's not necessarily true, but there's that perception that, like, this person didn't help me, and it's they individually chose not to help me, so I'm going to go get this person. It's the I want to talk to a manager philosophy. Like, there are times when you want to do it because you feel like what you're trying to get done isn't being understood or isn't being fully attempted. And then there's the philosophy of people that do it just because they want someone else to yell at, or they want to try and game someone else.
Sure.
So that's my thoughts on the duality of personal self and sort of brand self, commercial self, we'll say.
Okay. The Listerine self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
was
Tarzan
just
boy.
about to do that.
Okay, good. That's really. If you ever think of Listerine and you don't think of
Tarzan boy.
Tarzan boy, you watch the wrong Listerine commercial and like. Yeah. So one thing I also wanted to stress is one of the most therapeutic things for me, because again, I've had one of those days, and right now it's feeling a lot better because I'm getting a really strong interaction with people that I care about, and I wrote a little blurb earlier, just sort of like putting out some emotions about why today has been difficult and depressing, and just how I deal with it. And so one thing that's important for me as well too is I'm not like a licensed therapist by any means, but I've done a fair amount of research, personally, because I've had a lot of bad experiences and I've been like finding ways to surmount them. And I dated this great therapist, and we're actually going to be working on a podcast soon where we sort of discuss social issues and really helping people out. But I thought this might be kind of like a fun segue. If anybody wants to like write in, send a message to me personally or to my Facebook, I'll keep it anonymous, and we can discuss and answer things that people have a hard time with, whether it's social anxiety or depression or how to deal with people or even relationship advice. I mean, it's what's so important to me is to be relatable to people. And one of the most therapeutic things for me is to discuss and help other people with issues that they're having, because it gives me infinitely more insight into myself when I'm observing somebody else's situation and circumstances and thinking, well, what have I been brought up to understand to this degree, and what can I do right now? And if I were in this situation, what would I do? What would I say? And when you look at it objectively, it really brings a lot more into the self. So it's actually good for multiple parties to, sort of participate in that kind of dialogue.
I agree.
So yeah, if anybody wants to get a hold of me, I mean, for anything, and I mean, right now when we'll discuss it on the air again, I'll keep it all private as far as like names or anything. But since the Q&A app on the event page is just straight up not working, and I'm sorry, I apparently messed that up. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I mean, at any point throughout the show, feel free to message or text or whatever, and we can, sort of put that out there and discuss, our understandings of people.
Well, I do have a question from the Facebook page.
Okay.
This is public. This is not anonymized.
Okay. Is it about pubic lice?
Not yet.
I mean, public lice. Sorry.
Yeah. Public lice is the lice you share.
Right. Yes.
He says, I got to know something. How much do you love and cherish each other?
I don't think we could do this if we didn't love and cherish each other.
Yeah.
And those words sound very romantic, but I mean,
which makes me uncomfortable.
Right, but really, I mean, if you sort of take out that expectation for what that might mean out of it, I wouldn't have this kind of energy with other people and be able to do this. Like it's very cool to have this kind of this understanding of each other, and I think it comes down to respect. Like I don't think there's ever been a time where you've said something that I haven't respected it, whether I agree or disagree. You know, and I've disagreed with both of you guys before on things, but we've never once made each other to feel bad about it, or that like anybody's opinion was invalid. You know, we joke around, we have a good time, we have a fun, and we're interesting back and forth. But I think it just comes down to respecting each other, and if you establish that right off the bat, your relationship with people can skyrocket immensely.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I make the jokes about, you know, emotions making me uncomfortable, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I legitimately view you on a brotherly level, or at very least like a cousin.
Well,
the cool cousin.
Yeah, you're the cool cousin. But no, it's legitimately like I hang out with you, and I am not a sharing type person. Like I don't like to, and this is how it was phrased to me when I grew up, is burden people with my problems. Like it's just you deal with your own shit, and if you can't deal with it, then fucking deal with it. Like that's how I was raised. It doesn't make sense, but that's how. But you are the only person I've ever like told stuff to, because you're, you know, I like you. I trust you as a human being. And yeah, and then you tell me stuff all the time, and I get uncomfortable, and I fidget with stuff, and then we move on with our friendship.
Over a glass of water or whatever.
Yeah, like you're like I'm like in love with some girl, and I'm like break this pencil. I don't know, like that's just how my brain processes emotions. But
yeah,
I've never really had that with Radon because we don't live together. And
yeah, I'm sure if we like. I will say this, where I don't normally like. I have a lot. I maintain a lot of acquaintances, but I consider us friends. Like you're one of the people that if I were in Albuquerque, I would want to see. Like I would feel like it would be an incomplete trip were I to not see you.
And that's how I feel with you. Like anytime I'm in Cruces, I'm like, I should go say hey to Radon, even if it's like hugely out of my way, because I like Radon.
Yeah.
And he gets my fucking Scanners references, and nobody else does.
I think I only get them because of you, though. Like, because I had you explain them to me.
Taught them.
You still get it, though. And that's what matters.
No, you didn't forget.
Yeah, because I made a Killer Clowns from Outer Space joke at work the other day, and nobody got it, and then I explained it, and then I made it a few days later in reference to something else, and again, nobody knew what the hell I was talking about. I was like, you dicks. You didn't take the time to listen to my another door explanation.
It's good. And Radon and I have known each other for...
Oh, man, 13 years now?
About 13 years. We met, you were up with the Cruces crew, right?
Yeah.
DDR event, and everybody stayed at my house, at my mom's house, back in, 2003 or so.
And we played WarioWare and read Darkstalkers Dojinshi and played Rex Ronin.
Yeah, we had a lot of conversations, and I think you and I just talked 4 hours into the night. Everybody else was asleep.
Yeah, everyone else was asleep, and we were just going. Like it was weird. I'd never met someone who I guess cared about video games as much as I did.
Yeah, and that was exciting to me because I remember I was talking about Chelnov, and you're like, "Oh yeah, Atomic Runner or whatever," and then that was the first of mini, bro high fives, and we're just talking, and it kept going from there, and then some years back we were discussing just arbitrary, silly, whatever fun things we were doing, and Puppy Boobs was I think one of the big catalysts, our dream game.
How many times, Michael? How many times have you heard about Puppy Boobs?
0.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we were discussing this as Puppy Boobs Advance before they finally, maybe it started off as Puppy Boobs 64 because that came out before the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah,
and we were just discussing all the different types of boobs that puppies could have, and we decided, well, let's document this. It doesn't even really matter what we're talking about. We're just shooting the breeze about stupid things. And so we started doing it together online, and then eventually when the Google Hangouts thing started happening, we did it there and we started recording it. But it's nice because I trust both of you pretty explicitly with personal issues and with difficult times, and I've come to both of you guys teary-eyed before because I've had personal situations that I didn't know how to handle. I needed somebody to listen, and so it's nice that as comrades in video games and our little fun social events, it's really important to have somebody that will listen. And both of you guys have had extremely good objective information for me whenever I needed it. And that goes such a long way with me because it's a very intimate thing to share your soul with somebody. I'm going to tell you about Michelle. She was my ex-girlfriend, a friend I've had for 25 years, but she works in a correctional facility of sorts. It's like a more low-scale reintegration for convicts going actually into federal prison and coming from federal prison and reintegrating or preparing them. And she says that she is in love with so many of these people, and not like in the type of high school romance, I'm in love with you, go to prom with me, but because her job is to sit down and bare souls with these people, and they tell her everything. They go in depth, and I don't know the details of any of these things because obviously that's not going to happen. But when you sit down and no matter how difficult a person may be, no matter how bad someone's life has been, no matter how many terrible things that they've done, they're still people, and that stems from somewhere. And they may have done things that are irreparable or considered terrible, but they're still people. And they're people that have had something that in their life led up to that point and built them into the people that they are and to the decisions that they have made, but they're still people. And she says, this guy's terrible, this guy's done awful things, but I love him. I love him so much because he bared his soul. He opened up. And when somebody makes a decision to do that, you can't not embrace that in some way. I mean, you might not want to be responsible for giving them advice on what to do next, but if you're just listening to that and you are hearing somebody's entire being exposed, that is so intimate, that is so special, and you can't not be drawn to that in some capacity. And so I want to thank you guys for listening to me whenever I needed it, because it's a scary thing to give that to somebody, to trust somebody enough with that. And one of the reasons I actually like to display it so publicly on my Facebook and really expose that to people is because I want people to know that it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to have a hard time, and it's okay to feel inadequate, and it's okay that even when the world perceives you as being one thing, you can still have an entirely different behind the scenes going on that nobody will see, and it's so difficult, and that's okay. It's not always going to be all together. I watch videos or read articles about people in Congress that are getting so upset they're throwing chairs at each other, that they're committing suicide, that they're doing these things, embezzling money, and you think that anybody who's in that position clearly has to have it together. But there are some people who just simply don't know of certain ways to handle situations, so they make a decision that we might go, holy cow, I thought they had it together and they didn't. And it's okay to not have that. It's okay to not be together all the time. It's okay to be part of the struggle. Struggle is part of it. It's just not okay to get lost in it to the point where it envelops you, And so I want to thank you guys for being that regulation for me to not get lost. I needed that.
Yeah, everybody needs that.
Again, perfect example. It takes an active, I'm willing myself not to fidget with shit while we're having this conversation. I picked up the Konami justifier while you were talking, just so I could just be shooting at the ground, and not fidgeting on camera. But you're welcome, John.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, a lot. Yeah, you guys are really important to me, and anybody watching, I hope that in some capacity I've touched people's lives and helped them realize that it's okay to have a hard time, and it's okay to struggle, and it's okay to not know what to do next, and that's part of it. If I knew of anybody who had it all together all the time, I'd be so impressed, because I don't know anybody who does.
It's exhausting to have it all together for 2 hours a day.
Yeah, it's not worth the time. But and that's what I was saying earlier. Everyone in my life that I grew up with, I wouldn't actually qualify any of them really as friends. Looking back on them now, they were all kind of obligations. There are people who came into my life, and I was forced to take care of them at one point or another. And again, until I pretty much met you, and you're one of my first legitimate friends, who just wanted nothing from me in return for me being your friend. I never had to get in a fight because you were flirting with some dude's girlfriend or anything like that. It was just we're gonna hang out and watch fucking the live action Jungle Book movie, cause Like there's no there's no obligation when I'm hanging out with you, and that's a huge thing for me. Like I can actually shut down. Well, what you were saying earlier, like how do I unwind from just being me and everything? Hanging out with you helps with that immensely because there is zero obligation to take care of you when I'm hanging out with you. It's just John and I hanging out. I just had a real we were talking, so I shared it with you. I didn't hear a word of that.
Yeah, that's okay. You didn't mention also that we both teared up during the Jungle Book 1994 live-action movie.
I got a little choked up because Mowgli does not understand hate, the concept of it.
Yeah, he's talking to...
It's a powerful scene because... When was the last time you saw this, Radon?
I forgot that it existed. I don't think I've ever seen it. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Everyone forgot it existed. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a spoiler here, but I need to explain this scene to you.
It's really important, actually, yeah.
Yeah. So Cary Elwes, or whatever, is the bad guy in this movie. And
naturally.
He's taking Mowgli. He's playing a douchey British officer, and I don't know, pre-World War I. I don't know the exact era it's in, but... And he's taking Mowgli, who they found in the jungle and have taught to speak, into his armory, his weapons room, and he's showing him his collection of daggers and all this crazy shit. And he shows one to Mowgli that it's like a punch dagger, and he shows him that you stab it into your opponent's stomach and you pull down this lever and it opens and you disembowel them. Again, this is a graphic child movie. Like, it's intense, but Mowgli is smiling while the guy's telling him this, and his immediate response is, and then you eat him. And he's smiling and asking him the question, and then Cary Elwes is, of course, like, no. He's like, oh, so the guy's trying to eat you. And he goes, no one's trying to eat anybody. And then Mowgli legitimately becomes, confused, and he goes, then why are you fighting him? And then Cary Elwes tells him, it's because you hate him. And Mowgli, again, just straight confused, goes, what is hate? And even the evil bad guy in the movie gets flustered. He doesn't know how to answer the question. So he just puts his knife down and they walk away. And it's a rough emotional scene because the idea, he's a fully grown man who just has no concept of hate whatsoever, because in his world you only do violent things to stay alive. Well, just to stay alive, no matter whether that's to prevent from being eaten or to get food. It's a really good movie and really just fucking brutal all the way through. So many people die in that movie, Radon. An entire army of mercenaries is eaten by wolves. It happens in that movie.
I probably saw a commercial for it at some point, and that was 1994, so I was probably just thinking they were hopping on that Indian in the cupboard bandwagon.
Exactly what I thought. It was very much 1994 adaptation or live action, native-looking dude doing the thing. And for everybody wondering, this is the Jungle Book live action 1994 movie.
Yeah. Worth a watch. The worst part of the entire movie is it was right in the middle of that terrible 1990s CGI era. So, the big python or whatever. Whenever it pops up, and they use the same animation 2 or 3 times throughout the movie. It pops up and rears its head like that. Straight CGI and awful CGI too. It's you could have used a puppet. Because the other scenes you don't see the snake's head. Well, you do in one, but and it's a puppet. Yeah, it's a puppet or something like that. Looks fine. But then when it rears up, someone just decided we need a CGI snake in this movie. And everyone's like, well, we already have a puppet for it. They're like, shut up, we're making a CGI snake. Oh, and awful 90s split screen. Just god-awful 90s split screen.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's a really fun little movie.
It's a really wonderful movie, and I'm very impressed with how much I actually enjoyed it. But anytime a movie can also instigate a little bit of emotion like that in me, and a lot of movies do actually. I mean, I'm kind of a sap. I cried at the Pokemon movie. There's 2 scenes during the Pokemon first movie that I cry at every single time.
I don't like watching. I'm on record recently with Michael that I don't enjoy watching movies. It is not a hobby that I like.
Mm-hmm.
But I will cry at the top of it. If it's any kind of sports movie, I am guaranteed to cry at least once.
A League of Their Own.
Necessary Roughness. Oh,
Mhm.
in different ways.
Major
Yeah,
League
I'll do it.
Basketball.
Because every sports movie follows two paths. Either the unlikely underdog gets the victory, and that hits me. It's like, oh my god,
Mhm.
anyone can win. Anything is possible.
Scott Bakula can win.
Yeah. The alternate possibility is that they get to the end and they lose. And that's so heart-wrenching for me that I also cry.
Or they win and then they all die in a bus crash.
We Are Marshall?
Is that Hoosiers? What am I thinking of?
We Are Marshall was a plane crash.
Did somebody die in Hoosiers? Did I make that up?
I don't like Indiana, generally speaking, so I don't...
Just on record, not a fan of Indiana.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Indiana. Have we ever told you about our friend Colin?
Oh, right.
There is a gentleman named Colin who I worked with him at a call center, and we ended up becoming pretty good friends. But he's from Indiana, and it's so funny to me because Indiana is apparently 2 to 4 years behind in everything. Like, at the time when I was working with him at Cytel, well, I couldn't have been too many years ago, but he was like, have you heard that there's this ocarina you can get, and you can actually play it? And I'm like, yeah, that's a thing that's been around for a while. Like, and it just, everything he told me was something we had discussed like 4 years earlier. Like, it's like everything from Indiana is just like, well, there's this new thing. And it's like, no, it's not. It's all already been
That's
done.
a yak back.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's called a bop it. We've had those for a while.
It's this really endearing kind of innocence that he
Yeah.
had. Yeah.
He's a sweet human being. He's always smiley and just, I don't know. It's really funny just talking to someone like that. I keep trying to talk him into moving back to Albuquerque because I miss just enjoying his innocence.
Yeah, he's pretty great. He's a good guy.
Always wears douche shirts though. That's a problem with me.
Like sleeveless, like muscle.
They're not just sleeveless. They're cut open here.
shirts.
Like this chunk of the shirt is just gone.
Yeah.
And he says they're tennis shirts, but I'm like, I've seen tennis.
Yeah, they have sleeves.
Yeah.
I
Shout
know
out to
when Andre
Colin.
Agassi is training, he wears the douche shirts.
Who's training?
Andre Agassi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You said Andre Agassi, but then the thing broke up because every now and then your audio is like clipping for me.
Oh, poop.
So immediately my mind went to Andre the Giant because that's
Oh.
how I'm programmed. Just him in like a giant douche shirt.
So it would have to be a really large shirt, like 20XL.
Yeah, because they're all saggy on everybody.
You could sleep inside of one of his shirts, like
You could.
comfortably.
Yeah. If you could hollow out his arm, you could sleep in it like a tauntaun.
Yeah, you could put like furniture in there probably.
You could move into his right forearm. Yeah.
Like a little futon. Like maybe not a full king size bed, but just, you know.
No, like a full.
Yeah. Ah. You know what's wonderful?
Water.
Um,
I'm gonna change my answer to Scott Bakula.
Scott Bakula is. I always liked him because his name rhymes with Dracula, but also we watched a lot of Quantum Leap when I was young.
I watched so much Quantum Leap Quantum Leap and again Necessary Roughness. I used to watch that movie all the time. I loved it. It had Scott Bakula and Sinbad and that hot chick who I can never remember who was in Loaded Weapon. I think Emilio Estevez National Lampoon's movie.
I'm trying to remember who the chick was in that.
Yeah.
All I can think of is Denise Richards.
Fuck. Now I have to look it up.
Well,
All right. Well, what's wonderful, John?
is this situation is three grown men hanging out talking about movies and video games and feelings and emotions, and I think it can be really scary at times to do that with people, to let yourself be open, you know. And I appreciate that you guys do this. I sort of want to reiterate that it's nice to to have someone that will listen. And I want anybody who hangs out, to know that if anybody ever needs something like that, and it's important to me to give you an outlet if you ever need one. I've had several people come to me and we hang out at the store. We'll go into the back room. We'll sit on the couch. We'll grab some food and we'll just talk. And there's been a couple times where I've done that with people. And again, there's a therapy for me in it. But I am always willing to extend that. And if I've got people like at the store who can work for me while I'm doing that, I will always. That door is always open. I mean, it's sort of like a school counselor kind of thing. Like my door is always open if something ever comes up. But it's the people that have done that for me in their lives. When my parents were getting divorced, and when I was going through it, I've got a heck of a lot of issues that I'm still sort of working through, and I've checked out like some therapists for and talked to, and some complexes I'm still addressing. From when I was younger. It's the people that have chosen to be open for me have been such huge catalysts to recovery that I will offer that to anybody who ever needs it, no matter what. If I am able to do so, and this extends outside of the store. This is not a work-related thing. This is something as a human being that I will willingly give and provide to anybody who needs it. There's been a lot of really dark times in my life. A breakup with an ex-fiance 8-9 years ago that it decimated me. I cite this as being maybe the most difficult time of my life, and I don't know if people know that like this whole situation happened, but I don't know if they know the extent of how much it damaged me and how hard it was, and what the recovery needed to be. But it was a situation right after I had bought Gamers Anonymous, and I won't go into certain details about exactly what happened, but long story short, I broke up with this girl that I was committed to. We were going to get married about 5 months after this whole thing happened, before it happened, of course, and it changed everything in my life. I was stuck in this big empty house. I had only owned the store for about 3 months at this point, and I would come home from work and I would cry. I would fall on my knees and ask God why. I would submit. I had no idea what to do, and it hurt so bad, and it was a very hard time of my life. And I documented something, which was an old live journal. I don't actually know if it's around anymore because I think they deleted it after X amount of time. But it was a live journal where for like 3 months I would write down everything that I felt, and a lot of it, it almost looks very pathetic because I was pining. I was very much holding on to the situation that I wanted to continue to exist. But I was holding on to a situation that no longer existed. And so you can sort of see the progression of months and months and months of what I was feeling. And it was all legitimate, so I don't dismiss it, because at the time that's how I felt. It was the hardest time of my life. It was without a doubt. I felt like everything I had lost, I truly had. State that we put into romantic relationships, thinking that that's the one thing that's going to complete us, and that's where I learned for myself that it wasn't. That's not how it worked. I was very much living status quo at the time. I was still goofy and fun and like video games and dirty humor and all that kind of nonsense, but I had a very different take on what I was and who I was and what I wanted. And it's something that I was able to recover from, and it took a long time, and it took a lot of help and support from people that were willing to listen and willing to help out and stay with me and cheer me up and be there when I was sad. And they didn't have to do anything. They just let me be sad with them. They let me be miserable. They let me pour out my heart and my emotions, and they let me cry. They let me say, hey, it's midnight and I'm terrified of being alone. Hang out with me. And because of how much that meant to me, I want anybody who feels like that for any reason, with a relationship, or it's with a friendship, or it's with a family thing, or whether it's just, it could be anything. There's no, there's nothing that I want to judge anybody for, because I've messed up so much in my life that the last thing I want anybody to do is judge me for anything. And there is nothing so great that you could come to me with that I will say, holy cow, I'm not going to touch this, because everything's important, and everybody needs somebody to listen, and everybody needs that outlet in some capacity. and I'm willing to do whatever it is that I can. And I can't guarantee I can do anything, but I will always listen. I'll always be there. And I always want somebody to know that it will be completely confidential. It will be something that is given in love and in secrecy, and it will be taken care of and cared for and hopefully nurtured. My number one thing with anybody is to nurture what somebody needs for their own self, for their own growth, because I needed that. I needed that more than anything. And when the people who allowed that to me, they didn't say, do this and you'll be better, do that, you'll be better. They said, find the things that make you happy. Find out how to nourish those. Find out how to nourish yourself. And for the people that provided that for me, that's what helped. You know, I don't want anybody to be happy based on what I'm telling them to do, because I don't know. I want people to find out what it is that's good for them. I'll offer advice, I'll offer input, but ultimately I want people to do what they need to do for themselves to grow, and that's the bottom line.
Because Stone Cold said so.
Because I was talking to Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I was like, what do I do if somebody comes to me and he says, give him a Stone Cold Stunner? And that's, so I mean, I met this chick, you know, a couple years back, and she was like, I'm having a hard time, so I gave her a Stone Cold Stunner, and she got married.
Did she just yell woo and then chop you in the chest?
Yeah. She took off the mask, and it was
Sting underneath the Sting mask.
Yeah. Ric Flair. Yeah, Ric Flair got married to Sting.
No, this is why I legitimately value our friendship, John. Not because of wrestling references, but because since we're discussing emotions and everything, my entire life I've never had anybody like to share things with. Like, I've told you this story before, but it's now will be out on the internet. But when I was younger, I had a family member who I was pretty close with. He passed away, and I was doing my normal thing. I was walking around town, just kind of clear my head, because that's how I process stuff. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't, you know, deal with it really. So I called my older brother, and I told him I was having a really rough time, and I asked him if I could come like hang out with him, you know, and just, you know, kind of talk about it. And his response was, nah. And I was just like, and that's been my life. My whole life was from childhood, and from that moment on also, was like, cool, just don't bother telling anyone fucking anything ever again. Because the response to, I'm really like not okay right now, can we spend time together, was nah. Not a no, not a I've got something going on. It was a nah. Like, that's not even a real word. But yeah, so that's like, and I've never really taken advantage of the fact that I can talk to you, but like, we've talked about some stuff, but I don't feel like I've ever really unloaded stuff on you. But I know that if I chose to, you would listen to what I was saying. And it's really nice just having that option. Because again, even when I called you and was telling you about, you know, my uncle being in the hospital, which was a business call basically, I was like, I'm going to need to skip work tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Like, my voice cracked for a moment, and I was immediately like, Herb, don't say anything, just man up, don't be a little bitch about it. But like, it was okay because I didn't need to address it and be like, oh, sorry, my voice cracked, because I was talking to you, and it's okay. Like, it's nice having a person like that in your life. Okay, I'm done. Also, I sent a link of Kathy Ireland. That's who I was thinking of in the group chat. While you were having your big emotional revelation, I was like, Kathy Ireland.
I saw the follow-up as where the link was, but it's good to know that it was Kathy Ireland.
Yeah, it's good to know that it's /Duckman/images.
Yeah, I was wondering about that as well. But
yeah, it's. I just want to give anybody that option, no matter what. No matter what, you know.
Yep. And if you do it to Michael and he's fidgeting, it's not because...
No, I am more than happy to listen to people and, you know, help people if I can, but just know that I don't know how to handle things. like I will listen and I will give you the best advice I could possibly give you, but I'm going to hate my life the entire time it's happening. And it's not your fault, it's my family.
Family time.
Because emotions are met with nah in my family.
Thank you, guys.
No.
Oh, damn it. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah. Go fuck yourself, John.
Okay. That's fair.
I'm sitting here reading a Chinese food menu while we're doing this.
Chinese food sounds good.
I'm like, do I want to order fried dumplings while we're on the podcast?
You want French fries and fried dumplings?
I once ordered Chinese food while taking a shit, and I gotta tell you, it was one of the most powerful moments I've ever felt in my life. It was like complete dominion over another person.
Yeah,
I am defecating right now, and I'm going to give you an order to bring me food, and you have to do it.
Meat pie demand. That's actually, it puts you in the position of royalty, because if there was a king who could ever, like the king could go into his little chamber room, just start dumping his greasy, 14th century diarrhea everywhere and be like, I need you guys to build me like 20 new caravans, and they'd be like, okay.
Like Dodge caravans.
Exactly. And that's what's exciting, is that is a very powerful sentiment, and that's cool that we're to the point when I assume were you doing it on a cell phone or like a landline?
Picking up the bathroom hotline. No, it's a cell phone.
I like the idea of like the cord going from the living room into the bathroom.
Oh, like when you're a kid and you want to like talk on the phone, so you just like get the phone with the really long cord.
There's like 30-foot cord that as soon as you try and hang up the phone, just coils into a fucking monstrosity.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dad yells at you. Yeah.
I was explaining to my little sister the other day the idea of, like, back when I was a kid, I would call my best friend at the time who lived across the street, and if the phone was busy, I then had to just walk across the street to see if he was home. Like, that is something that people
that
will
so many
never
levels,
understand. Yeah, it's like, no one answered the phone and or it was busy, I'll just walk across the street.
Yeah.
Like, just so I can knock on the door and be like, you want to hang out? And it'll be like, can't, got to do homework. And then I'll walk back across the street.
Yeah.
I missed that.
That was what a text was walking across the street and be like, hey, you want to do something?
I think Ray and I have discussed this before. I have like this little Sega system called the Pico. And this thing it came out when I was in like 7th grade, and it was going to revolutionize everything, because it was like a little PDA essentially. You could type in people's contacts. You could sort of make like little faces, kind of like a me actually, based off of them, and then save it in there. And if somebody else had a Pico, you could actually message each other back and forth. I think it was like 10-foot infrared or whatever. But my fantasy was to be in class and I could be like, oh, hi, and my friend would be like, hello. And I thought that would be like the coolest thing, because technology at the time, it wasn't better than that. That still wasn't even a thing for years after, because there was just no real way to implement that successfully for cheap. And I think this Pico cost. No, it wasn't the Pico. It was because the Pico is like the drawing thing, right? Like the Richard.
Yeah.
Like.
I'm thinking of like when they always give them away on Carmen Sandiego, the little like. They'd be like, oh, you get a 2-pack of special spy messengers, and you could type like a 20-character message.
Hold on one second. I'm going to go find this thing, because I think I know exactly where it is, and I want you to see it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, because I remember I found my dad's like PDA.
Yeah.
Like it was just an open-up plastic thing with huge buttons and everything, and it had the capability to message people. But no one else in the world that I knew of had another one, so it was just, in theory, it could do that. Like, I had no proof. Because the idea of sending a message to someone was so alien.
Yeah. I remember I worked, after I graduated from high school, this was 2002, I was working in my stepdad's computer store, and we had a shelf full, like an entire shelf dedicated to nothing but BlackBerries. And we had like 30 of them, and no one ever bought them. And I always thought, like, these are the dumbest things. Like, who's ever going to buy one of these stupid things? No one needs this.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, that's a thing now. It's really interesting that we've lived through a technological revolution that just hasn't been seen in, like, centuries. It's like, the technology jump that we lived through is fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this right here is what I'm talking about. And it's the IR7000. So you pop it open, and it has a bunch of little options on here. Little LCD screen. There's a battle option, which I actually don't remember how you fight. Maybe it's like
no, that's what. I guess that was my older brother's. That's what I found that my dad had. that I thought was my dad's. I guess it was my older brother's, and it had the ability to message someone, and I never got to use it. And it was the biggest disappointment of my life.
Yeah, because I snagged this thing and no one else had one, and so I couldn't text all the hot chicks and be like, AOL or whatever, when they're in the same room as me.
The hot chicks.
Yeah. It was exciting, actually. Living through the advent of technology and internet has been interesting because I remember going into AOL chat rooms back in like 1993 or whatever and meeting people, and ASL was a thing, and not American Sign Language because that didn't exist yet. But but yeah, like, hey, I caught up with one of them. One of the very first people I ever made friends with was this girl named Carrie McConville, and her dad was a guy named Dr. GameWiz. He ended up passing away some years back, but he was like this sort of internet persona back in the early to mid 90s online as somebody who loved video games, cared about video games, would diagnose problems with Nintendos and Super Nintendos, but also try to help out. Just a very friendly, wonderful man. And we ended up talking back and forth. And I found her on Facebook a couple of years back, and that's mind-blowing because she's the first pen pal I ever had. And I drew her a picture of Diddy Kong back in 6th grade. I remember this. It was or 7th grade. It was a very exciting point in my life. But to think that at a time there was a standard in communication with people that was limited to that, and that was the best it got. We weren't sending pictures back and forth because JPEGs and stuff were way too big and unreasonable to send. You might have been able to email something over the course of an hour, but it was limited. There were chat rooms, and I got banned for saying penis because I was a stupid little kid, But you could go on there, and people would be like, "Hey, FF6," and I had at the time acronyms were still. I mean, I knew what they were, but I kept thinking people were talking about Fatal Fury 6, and I was like, "What is everybody talking about?" Because I hadn't played Final Fantasy 6 at that point, or 3 at the time. So when they were saying FF3. I was thinking, is this a new Fatal Fury? Is that what people are talking about? Because that sounds pretty cool. I didn't hear about that, and so I had no idea. But it was there were FAQs, and I remember my brother showed me AOL for the first time, and he printed out all of the fatalities for Mortal Kombat, and I was like, I didn't even need to go to the store and buy an EGM to do this, And there was a walkthrough somebody had made for Wario Land, and here's how to get all the secrets. And I was like, what? How I could do this. I can go online at any point, and now it's such a standard that you have a device in your pocket the size of 6 credit cards, and if it goes slower than downloading a picture within 5 seconds, it's a fucking piece of trash. People get pissed off, and it's bullshit. My phone doesn't work. God, AT&T sucks so much. It's dude, to have that much power.
I had that moment earlier because I was hanging out with Buckley, and they were looking at webcams, and they were like. Legitimately, I think the phrase was, 2 megapixels. And I was just like, the idea of that, because I grew up with Polaroids and crap, but I mean, it's just 2 megapixels. What garbage.
Were the standard. You couldn't even preview anything at one point. You had to, look through the lens and hope that it was right.
Yeah. There was no click, 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 click. No, no, no.
That was it. That was the end. But now you're this is only 400 pixels. Yeah. Yeah. Magnificent. Do you guys ever meet girls online? Did you ever have an online fling early?
Oh, yeah. I look. I wouldn't be here if I didn't have those. That's
dead?
What?
You'd be dead?
Well, no, I wouldn't know you guys. I wouldn't be living in New Mexico. That's the only reason I live down here. Is because I was chasing after a girl. I had unrequited love, and to kind of go back to an earlier point, not to bring the conversation serious again, but
I'm totally down.
It took me a long time, too long, honestly. I feel bad in retrospect how long it took me to sort of get over that, but I had this sort of added bonus once I got through it to be every day I wake up. And I've got all these great friends, and I've got this great thing going for me, and I love it down here. I really do love living in New Mexico. And, even though, this girl didn't return my feelings, and it didn't work out the way I hoped it would, and I went through a lot of heartache and struggle, the decision that I made brought me to, literally speaking, this place. So it made my life better. It improved me. And that is that's empowering to have that and to say okay, I wanted this thing, it didn't work out, But in the process of working so hard to get that thing and making so many big changes, instead, I've come into this whole other sense of being that I never would have had I not taken those steps.
And this is sort of like that ultimate metaphor, you know, like that butterfly effect kind of thing where things happen, life gets hard, stuff comes up that you don't want to happen, and you hope for a different outcome. You have an expectation of what you think it should be versus what the actuality is going to be. You know, there's perception of what you want versus the actuality of what's happening, and it can lead you to things and opportunities and places that are so much better, and it can be very hard to see that. And every time something bad happens, I mean, ultimately it's a setup for it, but it doesn't discount how difficult it is at that time. You know, I'm sure you relocating yourself entirely for this person was no easy thing, you know, especially when it didn't pan out.
Yeah, it was hard, and it was, you know, there are a lot of low points and a lot of me feeling bad and me doing things that I'm not proud of and treating people in ways that I'm not proud of. But ultimately, like, not everything that I am, but like so much of, you know, what I do for a living and who I know and who I care about and who cares about me, like, so many of those things were made possible because I, like, put myself out there that much.
Yeah.
So.
That's wonderful. And something that I think is really important to sort of touch up on with people in your life is to remember that every single one of us has messed up. Every single one of us has done something we're not proud of, and every single one of us has hopefully come forward from that. But the reason why, like, you know, all the people in my life that I actively choose to keep now, all of them have messed up. And I feel I've messed up the most because I've experienced all of the mess-ups that I've put forth. And because of that desire to not dwell on, you know, the errors I've made, I don't want to see that in anybody else because they're no better or worse than me. I'm not better or worse than them. Like, it's just, we're all just people. We're all experiencing our own path and our own difficulties, and, you know, no one can say for sure, you know, that they're better than us because they've sinned in a better way, or, you know, they've made mistakes in a better way. Some people might have more fortunate opportunities, and that's wonderful. I don't ever want to, you know, let go of that. But I think it's a really wonderful sort of unifying factor is that we are all here as, like, the final sum of everything we've done for better or worse in our lives. We are all sitting here talking right now, you know, online, and people are listening, and people are experiencing, and hopefully people are taking something from this, and, you know, like, really feeling that you're not alone when you're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make plenty more before I die, and I don't want to, but I will. That's just how it's going to be.
Yep.
It's part of it, and it's okay. In fact, it's welcomed if you choose to learn from all those things that will inevitably go wrong. But, you know, it brings you to places that you never thought you'd be in.
Yeah.
And I've met wonderful people, and I've got unbelievable opportunities, you know, to do this. Early on when I had met Heather, the ex-fiancée, I had an opportunity to become a coach at Blizzard, which is what ended up happening, or to go with her and her family to Hawaii as, like, a family trip, and I opted to do the Blizzard thing. And without the Blizzard situation, I might not have had the opportunity to make my way up the ladder as I did, to go work at GameStop, to get the opportunity to get Gamers Anonymous, and it became, you know, this whole cycle of events that, no matter how terrible something may seem, it can lead to something. Who knows what it is ultimately, but it's different, and it's something that you only get by choosing that path.
Yeah, we wouldn't have met if you hadn't become a coach at Blizzard.
That's true. Yeah, this podcast would be one less if it even would occur.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Weird.
It is weird.
Of course, you were only my boss for like a week, and then you just like went to Japan or something.
That's true. That was right around the time I was getting ready to take my vacation. Yeah. And then during my vacation, when I got the phone call, they're like, "Hey, Blizzard's moving to Austin, so by the time you get back, you're gonna have to work for somebody else." I was like, "Oh, well."
Yay.
So, worked for TiVo for a couple months, and I was like, "I'm not into this." This is something else that I thought was interesting. Is when I worked for TiVo for a while. So when I worked for Blizzard, when I worked for World of Warcraft, I wasn't into the game, but I cared about people who liked video games because I wanted them to have a good experience. But when I worked at TiVo, I was selling a product and trying to help with a product that I actually didn't care about, and it became so difficult for me because I couldn't give people genuine customer care. And I know that, you know, it's really important to You know, give people a legitimate response. And customer care is also, in a lot of regards, it's just pretending that you care for the sake of the customer. And that's fine. You want to, you know, really give that to people, but it's hard for me to fake that. And so I had to go back to work at GameStop. I had worked there previously, and I wanted to go back to that environment simply because even if I disagreed with a lot of the company's policies, it was still an environment where I could give people legitimate, honest input, and, you know, based off of experience and based off of trying to, you know, push their best interests and help them find what they wanted to do. And I met David Arquette too. He actually he bought some games from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the mall. Yep.
I think that in a perfect world, right, you think that customer care happens because you care about the customer. But I don't think that's enough, right? I think you have to care about what you're giving to the customer and what you're getting from the transaction. Like when I worked at Sitel, our campaign was DirecTV, and I didn't know anything about satellite TV. I didn't even know how to, like, I had been to a couple of friends' houses that had it, and it was just confusing and weird to me. But it was my first full-time job actually, it was my first full-time job since I moved to New Mexico. And I saw, like, an opportunity for advancement. So I worked really hard, and I learned a lot about DirecTV to the point where I was sort of the point of contact in our site that if there's, like, a weird technical problem, I was the guy to ask, even though I'd never, like, worked in installing it or never worked in building it or programming it or any of that stuff. I was the point of contact for, like, this weird thing is happening. Why would this be happening? And the reason that I got to that point is because I felt like I could advance, like I could do things with this position. And I became a coach, and I tried to do more. I tried to get into different departments or become an operations manager. And at the point where, like, I felt that door close, where it sort of became like a dead end, like this is what I'm going to do, I stopped caring about learning, about being that font of knowledge, because it wouldn't serve me anymore. Like what I learned had gotten me to that point, and then at that point, you know, there was nothing there. Why would I keep learning about something when it's not going to benefit me? So there's a bit of it's not always altruistic. There's a bit of selfishness, I think.
I think that's fair. Yeah, it's got to be something that is legitimately part of you.
Yeah, and if it's not, like, you can learn, you can make it part of you. But then if that's not, like, a true passion, like if it's not something that you genuinely care about, then, you know, when it doesn't serve you a purpose anymore, then it doesn't have a place in your life anymore.
That can be tricky. And if a job opportunity doesn't allow for that, you know, hopefully at least like a hobby or something that you can promote yourself with is something good to look into, because that kind of, I think, expression for the self to give to other people is extremely powerful. And it really shows if you love something when you're doing it. People can tell. It's very easy to spot fakes, you know, with whatever you're doing. And I like seeing when people give the opportunity to output themselves genuinely in whatever it is they want to do, whether it's a job or a hobby or, you know, like a charity or anything. It's wonderful to see. That's my favorite, is seeing the genuine nature of somebody, someone who's giving all because they want to.
Yeah.
That's the best.
I just got a text from Sam.
Oh.
Because she read what this podcast was about.
Yeah.
And she just sent me a text asking me if I was uncomfortable.
Oh, she should watch it and then watch you play with the toy gun.
Just. I was just tying things together. Also,
okay.
yeah. And I was processing games while you guys were talking.
Oh, awesome.
I love Tetrisphere.
I've never played it.
It is one of my favorite N64 games.
Yeah, all the ones we got in today, I actually kind of want to... Because we got Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, which...
Good game.
Fun, solid little game. Surprisingly cheap, in my opinion.
Just common.
Micro Machines, which I've never played.
Ooh.
I haven't played the N64, but I love the Micro Machines games.
Yes.
And then Tetrisphere, and those all interest me.
Yeah, they're all fun.
Oh, and Rogue Squadron for the 64.
Also very fun.
Yeah.
Like
Sorry.
Star Wars has had a pretty decent run of enjoyable games overall.
Yeah.
You know,
There aren't many that I don't like.
Atari.
I guess I don't like the Nintendo ones and the Super Nintendo ones that much.
I like them. Well, I like the Super Nintendo ones because they look really great and they sound really great, but they're so hard.
Yeah.
They're kind of
But,
fun to play.
I was explaining Knights of the Old Republic 2 to someone earlier
Mhm.
because, you know, the ending of that game is really mwah, mwah. Like, it just doesn't go anywhere
Yeah.
because the game was, like, rushed and wasn't finished. One of those things.
Mhm.
They're like, we're going to take this sort of bad guy and make her the final boss and then put the fucking credits there. It's like, okay, this game is terrible. But up until that point, that game is thoroughly enjoyable. It is a really fun, interesting game that ends terribly.
I don't think I ever beat it. Unfortunately, as far as gameplay goes, they're not really my thing, but I want to watch somebody play them because I like to experience them without playing it.
We can do that. Because I have the Steam version now, which
Sweet.
is like the community actually finished the game and then
Oh, right.
Steam put it up. So it's got all that extra content and stuff, and it looks better.
That's cool. I like that community can do stuff like that.
We could do a weird Let's Watch of Star Wars The Old Republic.
Let's watch. That's funny.
Yeah, I like Let's Watches because it's just a room full of people watching one dude play, and if there's multiple choice decisions, they kind of like vote, or if they switch out who's playing. Because I was watching one on Until Dawn, and it was the Achievement Hunter guys,
Mhm.
and it was going, and everything was fine. Everyone was still alive except Matt, because it's really hard to keep Matt alive, and the guy who was playing the whole time had to go shoot something else, so he was gone for one episode of the series that they were doing, and in that one episode they handed the controls over to somebody else, and he killed everyone. Like immediately, like one person after another just died, and it was because the other guy came back and he was just like, cool, I guess.
Was he killing them on purpose, or was he like trying to like actually save them and just messing up?
He was just making terrible decisions. It wasn't like purposefully killing them. He was just like, I'm going to investigate this sound.
Yeah.
It's one of those games like, do you investigate the sound or keep going? And he like went to investigate the sound and then got decapitated. And then he sent someone else to investigate something else and they got decapitated. And it was just over and over and over again, just death. And it was really funny because he was like, no! Yeah. Stuff like that is fun for me. That's why I want to start streaming in the shop.
Yeah.
Just have some people hang out and do stupid shit like that. I think it'd be fun.
I think so. I'd be down.
Also, Radon, I want to play a game of Worms so bad.
We can probably play it on Steam altogether.
Yeah, I have a lot of Worm games on Steam.
I don't have any on Steam, I don't think, but I'll pick one up and we can battle.
That might be the best way to do it, is to stream that.
I don't have any streaming equipment at my house. This is the problem.
Well,
Well,
if
see,
you
here's the great thing: if you stream PC games, you need zero streaming equipment.
yeah,
Huzzah!
you can just straight do it. Pretty good.
Is it, though?
It is.
I keep derailing the emotional conversation with random
No.
video game stuff.
No, that's totally fine. It's here's what I like.
Chocolate.
This is very much like a natural like
This is Dash.
this is the hour.
Sparta.
This is a Spartan. It's the video games have a philosophy with me, and I use a lot of metaphors with video games for how I try to live my life and run my life, and to not worry so much about things going wrong, and not to speak that today of like that depression and anxiety just sort of showed up out of nowhere. They just did, and it wasn't really instigated by anything, but it's video games teach me a lot with the way that they express themselves, with the fact that there's a lot of games that I'm pretty good at, but the only reason I got good at them is because I was really bad at them for a long time, I made a lot of poor decisions over and over and over. And one of my favorites to actually cite is the Mega Man series, because I've been playing those games since I was like 6 or 7 years old, 7 or 8 maybe, because I'm 87. So probably about like 7 years old. And so I'm pretty well versed in how these games work, but the only reason I got good at them was because I played them a lot, I killed Mega Man a ton, and I lost way more than I ever succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really fun is even when Mega Man 9 came out, I knew how they worked, I knew how they functioned, I knew how Mega Man formula went, and I still died and lost and destroyed and did not succeed numerous times before I ever, beat that game. And it's exciting to me to think that like it never stopped me. It never slowed me down to just keep dying. I just said, you know what? Like I know the formula. I know the parameters. Let's go ahead and use the knowledge that I've got. But we have to sort of reapply it with a different situation, and that's how it's going to be. Life will always keep you on your toes, no matter how much you learn. It still like throws you that curveball, and it says you've done this exact same thing. So like, you know, keep an eye out. But we're going to mix it up to the point where the familiar is unfamiliar. And I kind of like that life does that. And sometimes it seems overbearing, and sometimes it seems very difficult, but there's always a way to do it with the perseverance and support of people and friends, and it's never not doable if you allow that. And I'm sure people can message either of you guys if they ever want to. People can message me, but don't get caught up in failure. Don't get caught up in losing. Don't get caught up in not trying because you're afraid you're not going to succeed. There's hundreds of inspirational pages and stuff out there that talk about how the master has failed more times than somebody who has never even tried, or something along those lines. I don't even remember what the exact quote was, but like it's the first step in succeeding is even trying. Without trying, you're not going to do anything, and it's okay to lose. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to just give it a shot and not do it. And it's okay to give it lots of shots and not do it. And I don't even know if this is true, but there was that Thomas Edison quote that said, I don't even know how it goes. It's I can't remember all these things.
1,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
Yeah, like I have not failed. I've simply found 10,000 ways that don't work.
Yeah.
And it's cool because you think of it like that, and it's really like all you're doing is deducing wrong solutions, and that's fine. You don't beat Gutsman by jumping into his body over and over. Cool. Now we know more for next time. Maybe I'll shoot him. Oh, maybe I'll jump over the bomb. Maybe I won't hit the bomb with my body. That won't kill him. Like, it really is, if you want to twist it, everything has a legitimate, proper gift to the experience.
Right. I mean, like, you could use a Phoenix Down on every boss in Final Fantasy VI. Yeah. And it would not get you results, and then you do it to the Phantom Train, and it dies instantly, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything there has like a elimination kind of. Yeah.
Spoiler. Learning things.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, Like I like it when things allow for experimentation like that because I think it reflects the curiosity and the nature of us wishing to try things that might not work, but then just seeing if they do. It's probably not a good idea to say, I hope that holding this grenade in this nursery doesn't destroy every child in
right.
The process tells you that it's a good idea to not do that. But
yeah,
that's also
I'm going to get out of bed and smoke crack every morning because one of these days
is to see if it gives me like a presidential position at Warner Brothers. Yeah, it probably won't.
Warner Brothers.
Other people's experiences, and you can use but that's what's better. We're allowed to make the decision to understand from other experiences what happened, and what you can do, and that's cool. But then you can make your own. If you're not sure, you have not seen any empirical evidence before, you can actually try it for yourself and see. So when you're playing that Mega Man game, just die. I can't tell you how many times I've handed controllers to people and just said, play this game. And they're like, what do I do? And it's like, just try things, see what happens.
Yeah.
Like I'll help you if you truly can't figure something out. But how do I jump? Well, there's 2 buttons right there, and one of them will probably do it. So you have a 50% chance right off the bat of actually jumping. Just see what happens. And maybe there's fine-tune things down and eat a slide, or select and B to do a combination of whatever. Okay, cool. But just like don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to put a CD in the microwave. Don't be afraid to drench your phone and call the mermaids. There's too many options out there to be afraid.
Call the mermaids.
You have to have a wet phone to do it.
Yeah, they don't understand air talk.
They'll run out of air if you call them on a dry phone.
You'll drown them with oxygen. Mermaids are weird.
Yeah. Are they attractive or just fish with boobs?
It depends on the mermaid, I think.
Are they attractive or just fish with boobs?
Well, some fish are probably attractive.
There's plenty of fish in the sea, right?
Yeah, exactly. There has to be one that's attractive to me. There has to be one fish I look at and I just go, ah. You know, you get butterflies from like checking out like one of those weird like angler fishes or whatever.
I
Yeah.
hate you guys.
I'm
I hate you so much.
not attracted to pufferfish, and I don't like being, you know, like a bigot or anything, but it's,
That's the weirdest one of those I'm not racist starts. Like, I don't want to be a bigot.
yeah,
Come on.
I'm not saying.
Fugu will kill you.
Pufferfish. Yeah, no go.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't kiss one or eat one or touch one. I would touch one.
Or
No,
employ one.
No,
no.
they look painful to touch.
Yeah, that's bad. Well, I don't know. I was thinking like putting my finger in its mouth is what I was thinking about. Does that work?
That's an intimate encounter.
Radon, what is your roommate's opinion on the pufferfish?
Trent, what do you think about pufferfish? Are they attractive? Would you touch one?
I would totally touch one.
Would you eat one?
No.
Would you kiss one?
No.
Would you date one?
Would you date one?
No! What the fuck is with that?
I love including extra people.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing.
We get sucked into this whole
I
conversation.
think it's a very valid
I
question.
don't think that's a valid question.
Okay, what if it was like a pufferfish mermaid? What if it was like half woman, half pufferfish?
That'd be even weirder.
Does this just like the lower body expand, or does the human part expand?
I think both have to expand equally.
Hold on, I'm googling pufferfish mermaid.
Okay, well, hold on. It's gonna be like one of those little things you put in the bathtub and they get bigger, like little dinosaurs. Not the ones
Yeah.
with pills, but like they're just like small, like, you know, spongy.
Yeah, it's like a little pill, and then it turns out it's a T-Rex.
Right, exactly. That's how the T-Rexes were born.
Yeah.
Somebody dropped all the pills in the swamp.
Someone made a batch of T-Rex pills.
Yeah, some careless super Neanderthal. Because I think that there were super who lived before the dinosaurs, and then the dinosaurs ate the Neanderthals, but they left the pills. And then when the dinosaurs died, the pills fell in the mud and made the Neo-Neanderthals. Those are the ones.
You sound disappointed that you Googled pufferfish mermaid.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff.
Yeah.
Google that, Radon.
I will do no such thing.
Just image search it. It's not even like disgusting.
I think that's worse.
It's not even disgusting. It's just like people are making cutesy art of pufferfish mermaids. And
Oh
it's
no,
really-
I'm not worried about it being disgusting. I'm worried about my Google search history becoming even worse.
The FBI is like, wait a second.
Yeah, this is the straw that breaks their back.
Oh.
It's really weird. I don't know how to.
When did your picture become Kathy Ireland?
A while ago. I've been editing that like every 30 seconds.
Okay.
It's Kathy Ireland, and I believe it says I'm uncomfortably fidgeting.
It does say that.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Oh, shoot. So,
Is there a way to just like post images? I don't know.
You can screen share it, but then
How does-
everyone will see it.
so I still wanted to know, how's everybody feeling this evening? Because I'm feeling leagues better. I really am. And
Good.
again, I don't know what it is. Some days are just heavy, some aren't. And it's okay to have them. You know, if you're depressed, there's people to talk to. There's situations that you can put yourself into that, you know, can sort of take the weight off. And I don't know what mine was. I don't know. I just woke up and maybe it was literally just that my house was freezing and I didn't sleep well, and for the rest of the day I felt awful. I have no idea. It could have been any number of things. It was a bad dream. Maybe it was, you know, like maybe it was frustration from the day before when I had to spend way too much money to get my car fixed. I don't know. And sometimes you don't have to sit there and like rationalize it.
It's probably all of those things, right?
Okay.
Because if one thing bothers you, you
I'll
can
send you guys
usually
a
be
new
like,
thing.
I'm not going to let that affect me. Like, it bugs me, but I'm not going to tell people. Like, it's not going to become a thing for me. And then when 2 things happen, and when 4 things happen, when 8 things happen, you know, eventually it becomes too much for you to contain.
Maybe.
And there's got to be some kind of release.
Yeah.
Why am I clicking this link?
The cat had knocked a piece of pizza onto my couch and there was a glue stain onto my couch. And then I was doing bad at Mega Man. And then, like, you know, yeah, it could have been a lot of stuff added up, and suddenly I was like, you know what? Ugh. Like,
What?
I don't like that. Did you find the pufferfish picture?
Oh, what is happening? Oh, why did I click this button?
I don't know.
I
It
hate
just
the
popped
art
up.
style because it reminds me of God, what is his name? It was a cartoon that was on like Fox Family. Robin, I think it was. He's like a little shitty English kid with like a purple hat. He was in a Radiohead music video.
Weird.
I'm gonna find him.
So this is like a whole comic. It's really weird.
Yeah, I saw the comic. Her butt got really big.
No, I mean there's a lot more pages to it.
More than that.
Yeah.
I'll do it later.
I'm not gonna send you guys anymore. I just like the world is weird.
Yeah, but that's what makes it good.
That's true. It makes it exciting.
Just in general.
Yeah.
Fucking world.
You know what's cool though? Is like, I think, and this is something that I actually wanted to talk about as well too, and this is sort of more of like a general note. There are a lot of folks out there who are scared of embracing everything that they are. And it's because the world has already put judgments out there. The world has already said, if you do this, you're bad. If you do this, you're good. Go ahead and do the good things, so people will like you, and people will, accept that, and you'll be part of the social norm that everybody's expecting. And that can be really daunting, and that can be very easy to get caught up in because we're fed it all the time. But there is something so relieving in not having to worry about that too much, and not that even I don't get caught up in that sometimes, because it happens. Sometimes I look at the fact that I've got a decent physique going on, and I'm combating that, but sometimes I look at my tummy and I go, wish my tummy was smaller, because I want girls to think that I'm attractive, and if I don't have the washboard abs, they're not going to think that. And then I think about the fact that, like, I've got a room full of Nintendo stuff, and I've got a tattoo of Wario on my arm for the rest of my life, and I've somehow managed to meet some of the most wonderful, attractive people, men and women, not even people that I've dated, that look at that and they go, that's John, like, that's what he does, that's his thing, and, like, that's cool. And I found that by, like, unabashedly embracing all of that, I've attracted people that are attracted to a genuine nature. And if you're ever worried about not meeting people that are going to, like, be attracted to you and want to be around you, embrace what you want without shame. Anytime, all the time, do it. Don't worry about getting caught up constantly. You're going to. It happens to everybody. It's going to. But refocus and remember that you will find wonderful people who will not look twice. They won't think twice. I don't know what the idioms are. They will not think twice about wanting to be around that. And this is why, like, both of you guys is, we have these conversations when we look at pictures of pufferfish women, and we talk about puppy boobs, and, Michael says, I hate you all the time, Graham says, I hate you all the time to me, and I know he doesn't mean it, but he says it because we're comfortable with the fact that, like, he can say that because that's a Graham thing to do, and he can flick pennies at me, and it's wonderful because it's real. And real anything is the most attractive thing you could possibly have, you could possibly be. And it's cool. And you'll weed out the people who don't appreciate that, and it might be hard to let them go. It might be hard and scary to get uncomfortable by removing something from your life that's been around for so long. But if it's not letting you flourish as you at all times, and there should be no exception to this, at all times, don't keep it around. Keep you at the forefront. And it's not a selfish thing. It's, protecting your own spirit and being is selfish in the regard that you can give yourself genuinely if you've developed yourself genuinely. Being egocentric selfish is where you benefit yourself at the expense of others, at the cost of somebody else's best interest. And so being selfish can be divided into two camps, and it's very good to look at that and say, why am I doing this? It's because I want to make the best me possible so I can give the best me to everybody else out there. And the only way to do that is to be genuine all the time. I see people get caught up in it, and it used to happen to me all the time. And I'm happy with the fact now that, it's okay for me to like dork out and show people that constantly and not live in fear of what people are going to think anymore. Because whenever I walk, like, somebody comes over and, like, we hang out and they're like, you're such a dork, I'm like, yeah, I might have a wall full of amiibos in my bedroom and Ninja Turtle posters all over the place. That's what you got. And they go, okay, that's cool.
Right, that's kind of, it's in that regard, especially, like, you can meet someone and you can try and be as cool as you want to be, but at the end of the day, if they're gonna go to your house at some point, they have to face how you live.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
you could never, like, go on a date with someone and be like, oh yeah, like I'm just really like sports and like lifting weights and I'm not into like nerdy shit.
Yeah.
And then they come to your house and they're like, and you could still like weightlifting and sports, but if you try and like deride certain things and say like certain things aren't as legitimate in your life as an attempt to be something you're not, well, eventually, right, someone has to know. Unless you have a creepy shed with like a padlock on it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, some underground like fallout shelter just filled with pictures of like naked rabbit men. But even that, like, you know, you might find somebody who's into that. You're gonna have to be a little more careful about how you seek that out. But you know, it's doable.
People that are into rabbit men or creepy sheds full of naked rabbit men.
Both. Like that's
Yeah, you should be careful. Look, it's okay to have a creepy shed full of stuff, right? But just know, as an individual, you need to protect yourself because anytime you're getting into a creepy shed situation, it's risk.
There's a
heavy.
chance of danger.
Yeah.
Let's not. I mean, I'm not saying having a creepy shed makes you a serial killer,
It does not.
but most serial killers come with a creepy shed. Like, it's one of those things. Or a semi-truck. A lot of semi-trucks.
semi-trucks are pretty dangerous.
That's
But
the
yeah.
easiest way to kill people because you're traveling from town to town anyway, so there's no real pattern. It doesn't matter.
That's yeah, probably end that a little bit. But yeah, you know, like I want unless so the rules that I sort of abide by are, you know, just don't harm people, don't harm anybody's best interest because it has nothing to do with you, and people, it's so easy to get caught up in that, and this is something that I had to really focus on doing. Is somebody had posted a picture of like this dude, and he had like everything ever pierced and all kinds of gauges, like in his chin, in his cheeks, in his ears, in his like eyebrows, like it was, and tattoos everywhere, and like it was pretty outrageous to look at. And so, you know, like the comment or the caption for the picture was, you know, like leave a comment below about what you think of this. And I was looking at it, and I was ultimately concluded that it's irrelevant what I think. My opinion has literally nothing to do with this man at all. It doesn't matter what I say, and I shouldn't be saying anything because even if I don't like it, you know, who cares? Like, that literally has nothing to do with him. That's all about me just, you know, voicing something that doesn't even need to be voiced. And
it legitimately doesn't affect your life in any way.
At all. It's one of those things, if I didn't know about it, my life would still be affected in 0 ways, you know? And even if so, like, even if this dude was a terrible guy who came to my house and, like, you know, stabbed all my cats, it wouldn't be on account of how he looked. It would be on account of he's a crappy dude who does terrible things, but nothing to do with the fact that he's got all kinds of crazy piercings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think of him is 100% irrelevant. And there are times when it's easy to get caught up in, you know, oh, that girl doesn't look as good. Then I think, why? It doesn't matter. Like, what I have to say literally doesn't matter. So I'm not going to say anything because there's literally no reason to not empower somebody who's doing their own thing entirely. All the time. This actually, this leads me to something that I wanted to actually write out the other day because I was thinking about it. And it's funny how many social issues we're sort of touching upon with this whole conversation, but everybody I know takes a pretty heavy anti-bullying stance. You know, don't bully people, don't say terrible things, don't be mean, don't, you know, belittle somebody else because, you know, they're doing their own thing, right?
Yeah.
But I still see a lot of really interesting anti-Kanye West and Justin Bieber posts about like how much they hate them, and I keep thinking, is it justified because you don't like these people?
Yeah, I've never understood that either.
It was very
Like, I never partake in those conversations, but it's like, you can't be all, oh, everyone's entitled to their opinion, blah, 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 and like, be nice to everybody, and then be like, fuck Kim Kardashian. You're like, why? Because they're a celebrity, it's okay to say they're shitty?
yeah.
Like, go fuck yourself, man. Like, it's...
interesting kind of philosophy, and you know, I don't really know much about the dude, and like I'm not exactly in favor of things that he does or says.
Mhm.
But again, like voicing it seems like a really interesting thing to like take time out of my day to do.
Yeah, it's like, you know how much time I've spent concerned about what Kanye West is doing?
Hopefully not.
0.
Yeah.
0% of my time has ever been spent going, man, I wonder what Kanye West is doing right now.
But at the same time, like, even if he's doing terrible things, I think I'm more interested in finding out what makes a person tick. And that doesn't mean justifying it. That doesn't mean saying it's okay. That doesn't mean, if he's doing terrible things, I truthfully don't know what he's actually doing. Wanting to understand something is not the same as condoning, Yeah. And this sort of ties in with Michelle, who I mentioned earlier, with her job, is to understand people and to integrate people, and not to say that, oh, you've killed people, it's okay, but it's to say, this is the parameter that's been set. Where are you right now? Let's move forward and figure out what the next step is. And that's interesting to me simply because there are lots of things I don't agree with. There's a lot of stuff that I vehemently actually stand against, but there has to be a very constructive way to approach it. And sometimes it's simply to want to understand, because the more you can understand something, the more you can communicate with it. And if you choose to not understand something, do you have any right to try to teach it? Like, if you're talking to somebody and the only thing you want to do is stand against their viewpoint and like butt heads, then you have no right to try to educate them if you're unwilling to understand where they're coming from. And it's not agreeing with it, but it's saying they've got a condition that's been set. Maybe it's from parents, maybe it's from grandparents, maybe it's from a terrible growing up situation. Who knows where it was learned from? But if you're unwilling to want to understand that, do you have any right to try to educate them on your point of view if you won't listen to theirs?
Yeah, I saw a video today that actually kind of, it's weird because it was basically a commercial, but it plays into this whole idea where if you want people to agree on something that matters to them, it has to matter to them, right? There has to be some kind of sort of incentive, because people can say like, oh, like I care about politics, but do they care about politics or do they care about like getting their way specifically and not making any concessions to the other person?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I saw an ad for JetBlue. They did this cool little promotion where they had. I was going to say they hijacked a plane. It was it was a JetBlue
It's
flight.
a sweet little plane hijacking ad.
Yeah, how to get somebody to agree with you.
Yeah. It was a JetBlue flight, and they brought like cameras on board and this like host guy, and they told everyone on board, like after they'd taken off and after they'd reached cruising altitude, they said like, hey, so like an election's coming up and like people are disagreeing with each other and want to see if we can actually get people to agree on something. So this is a plane full of people that like don't know each other aside from like maybe the person you're sitting next to, and they said, if we can get a unanimous decision from every single person flying as a passenger on this plane on where you guys want to go, we will give you free round-trip tickets to that place. But it has to be before the plane lands. Like, you guys have to figure out where you want to go. And so, like, it created this whole, like, oh, I want to go domestic. I want to go international. Okay, well, we have to iron that out. Okay, now do we want to go here? Do we want to go there? Do we want to go here? Do we want to go there? This place has beaches. This place has a better nightlife. Like, and it's a plane full of people that, if they can't agree with each other, then they miss out on a round-trip flight. Like if they lose, they get nothing, right? But if they are willing to make concessions, and maybe they're not going to get exactly what they want, but if they work with other people, they're going to get another vacation. I thought that was kind of cool.
That is an interesting idea. I really like that concept of saying we can all benefit if we decide to understand each other and communicate that. Huh. I love people. People are so interesting. People are so fascinating.
Yeah.
People are fascinating.
It's fun. I love seeing what everybody, what everybody's life has led up to, when they come in the store, when I'm talking to them online, when I'm, watching videos on the internet. It's interesting to think that, like, everything that you see, there's some sort of backstory that's led up to that. And I'll never know most of it. 99.9% of all the information on Earth regarding people's lives, I'm not going to know.
Yeah.
But everybody's got something entirely unrelated to me that has an entire history leading up to the point where I see whatever they're doing. And that's wonderful to me. Michael.
What?
Graham.
Yeah.
You're a good man.
Sorry, the Duck Hunt machine is still on, and it keeps going. Do 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 do. It happened, and I was whistling without really realizing it.
That's fair. So I
Maybe
actually
it's
have
me.
an idea of talking about this kind of stuff periodically. And I know this is sort of like a break from the norm, what we do with the Cyber Zone. And I wish I had the questions app enabled, because I would really like to get active user input from anybody listening. And I'm sorry that I messed all that up. But
Yeah, if it's not enabled before the podcast starts, it doesn't work.
yeah, and I thought I did. I totally thought I did. I must have not clicked it again.
Yeah, but we got these cool little bars under our names. Like, it's progress.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're moving up. Looks pretty cool. It looks a little fancier, you know. And we've actually had a pretty consistent group of people that have been watching this evening, and I've gotten like a little bit of feedback just throughout the show of what people have been saying, and that's super cool to me.
Yeah.
But we're about 2 hours in, and I think it's probably, I think we can start wrapping up. I think we're concluding pretty well. But there's one last thing that I want to say to everybody, and it is this: work hard for what you love, and do what you do, and be who you are, and don't ever allow any shame to stop you from doing everything you've always wanted to do, because that is betrayal of the self, is to not do what you want to do. You know, there are times where you're going to be put into situations for work or for, you know, any other reason that may require a little bit more for a means to an end. But when it comes down to it, don't betray your best interest, because that's the worst betrayal that there is to choose to not to betray something else because you think it's going to be for the better, but it's betrayal of you. And you're wonderful and you're worthwhile, and everything you have to do has merit. And you may have questions that people think are dumb, but to somebody else, they're extremely well thought out. And it doesn't matter what anybody thinks ultimately, because if it's something that you want to understand and you want to further your own being, embrace that and ask it and talk about it. And if you want to research it beforehand, cool. And if you want to just ask somebody because you want a straightforward answer in a dialogue, do that. But don't ever be afraid or ashamed of anything that you are, because every bit of it is worthwhile because it's you. And there's no exception to that. There's not a single time where that will not apply. And it's important to work on that, because it will bring happiness. And if you are happy, you're not going to do, you know, things that will be against the better interest of people, because happiness doesn't allow that. Misunderstanding and sadness and difficulty will, and those are going to happen, but embrace the learning experiences of those and utilize it to make yourself better, to make this world better for anybody who's around you. And whether that's just giving them a high five or a hug or saying you're cool, like, those things go such a long way with everybody, because I don't think I've met a single person who's been told, you know, dude, that's awesome, and been like, oh, you know, that's yeah, I don't want to hear that. Nobody got a high five and was like, oh, that sucked, you know? Like, the smallest things make a big difference, and that's where you have to start. You don't even have to go, you know, drive people 10 states away just to make them happy. You can do the smallest things, and that makes a difference. And if it makes a difference to one person, it's worthwhile. Because anything you do to enhance the betterment of this entire world that we all live on together, it's worth it. Every last thing. And there's no exception to making anything better. Helping an animal, or, you know, like, helping a stranger, or whatever it is. It's all worthwhile. Every last bit of it. Come in the store, have some pizza with me, play a video game, and then go out and, like, tell somebody that they're awesome. That's all you gotta do.
Yep. I always tell people when they're having a bad day, or like when they're just like not feeling, like if they're feeling lonely or something, like to just pick someone on their Facebook friends list that they haven't talked to in a while, or that they have, and just tell them like that they're cool, that it's nice to have them as a friend, or just like say something like your hair probably looks good today, like whatever.
Yeah.
You know, if you just give someone a compliment, if that's how you start a conversation with someone, is a compliment, even if you already know them, like, it makes them feel good.
Yeah, and there's no lack of merit in doing that. There will never be anything bad about doing something genuinely good for somebody. You know, do it for the right reasons. And the right reason is because you want somebody else's day to be made. Don't obligate people. Don't, you know, pay it forward to yourself. Don't do stuff to get something from somebody. Do it because you can. You know, share that Coca-Cola, or give somebody a hot fry, whatever it is. Like, you know,
I hate you.
that's on like the most subatomic level. It's okay. If it's worth watching. You know? Go buy some French fries from McDonald's and give them to a homeless dude in the street. He might throw them on the ground and scream at you, but like, that part's up to him.
Especially if he ends up not being homeless.
Well, maybe
I want it. Burger King fries.
maybe he lived in like, McDonald's fries for hundreds of years, and then he's just mad at you, but you didn't know that.
He didn't.
There's no way of knowing. But you know, just be awesome and don't be afraid. Don't be scared of liking what you like, and enjoy all of it. And if something excites you and everybody else thinks it's dumb, it doesn't matter. Rejoice and celebrate that one little thing. If you get excited because somebody's bringing a slice of pizza home, freaking celebrate that until you faint, because that's awesome. Everything is awesome. Andrew WK is one of my favorite philosophers, and legitimately in terms of philosophy, because he embraces like the kindness of the soul and the love of the heart and like the appreciation of one's own being, and that's where you got to start. It's not selfish. It's building. You know, a pizza is not going to feed a family if the pizza is 1% of what it's supposed to be. A pizza feeds somebody if the pizza is the whole pizza.
You're harping on pizza a lot in this.
Pizza, it's the ultimate metaphor for life.
I'm pretty hungry.
Me too. I'm gonna make some pizza.
I'm pretty hungry also, and I miss the Chinese food place that closed.
Well,
So that's a problem I'm having.
Number 1% is what.
Yep.
That's pretty meta.
Ugh, fuck.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
You are also awesome.
Yeah, you guys, my hosts here with me, all the people that are watching this, even if you've never seen the show, even if you're not watching it at all, you're worthwhile and you're awesome. And don't let what's behind you, set you back, because it's part of it. It's all part of it, and we all have it. Everybody gets a bunch of mess ups. We get mess ups until the day we die. Hopefully those mess ups don't allow it to happen too soon, but just
Too soon.
too soon.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like words of wisdom to leave the podcast with. It's hard for me though.
You can just yell at me.
I do hate you, John, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Because, again, the personality spectrum, I'm on the opposite end from you. Radon's right in the middle. So it's for people like me, my biggest problem, because you talked about this earlier, is not cutting people out of my life. That is a fucking snap for me. Like, if somebody does something shitty to me, I'm like, you're dead to me forever. I don't ever need to talk to you again. But if I run into them again later, I'm like, hey, how's it going? And then as soon as they're out of view, it's like dead to me again. Like, It's really weird. But
you can be civil when the time calls for it, and that's
yeah.
good. You don't have to embrace it, yeah.
Yeah, being civil is one thing, but caring about a person, nah. But the biggest problem for me as a human being has never been cutting people off, been allowing people in, because again, I grew up with everyone being obligations. So choosing people to actually consider as a friend, such as you or Radon or somebody like that, is a really big fucking issue for me. So if I was to give advice of some kind, see, now I'm rolling. I just started is just take a chance, talk to somebody on the opposite side of the personality spectrum, because as much as I hate John, and we on paper should not be friends at all.
It's true.
That's why that relationship works. So I don't know, if there is one of those generally quiet, angry-looking people out there who happens to hear this, it might not hurt to talk to the silly, outgoing guy who you kind of are annoyed by. Advice, I guess. I don't know.
Opposites attract.
Yeah, like Paula Abdul and DJ MC Scat Cat. Sorry.
Yep, exactly. They made love as cartoon animals.
They take 2 steps forward.
2 steps back.
They're exactly where they were.
Yeah. I don't like cigarettes.
They have not grown as people or cats.
Yeah.
This relationship is ultimately no good for anyone. They're staying right where they were. Nothing's being accomplished.
But you know what? That's balance. They
It's
brought
true.
balance to the force. They have the midichlorians. Those were denounced, by the way, right?
A lot of stuff has been denounced.
Okay. Well, that's fair.
Midichlorians are not one of them, though.
The
The
thing-
Phantom Menace is still part of the canon right now.
Didn't J.J. Abrams say that midichlorians were? I don't know who's called it as ultimately, but
J.J. Abrams can say that, but then if Disney hires someone else later on,
oh, that's true.
If they hire
MC
Wes
Scat
Craven.
MC Scat to direct the new Star Wars. Episode 8, Midichlorian Madness.
Yeah.
It's
He has an album. I don't know if you guys know that MC Scat Cat has a solo album.
I did not know.
Yeah, but a friend of mine when I was growing up had it. I never had the gumption to actually try listening to it. It could be amazing. It could be like nothing but like the Beatles' White Album, but with a cartoon cat. I wouldn't know. I made a prejudicial decision, and I'm paying for that right now.
Are you?
I don't know.
I'm proud.
Look, Michael, if I could tell you right now that I would order a pizza for Dr. Poop Johnson, and I would put on the MC Scat Cat CD, and we could play Uniracers for like another hour before I get sleepy and go to bed, wouldn't you do that?
Oh, Dr. Poop Johnson.
You guys should probably explain that to everybody else as well, too, because I think people want to know.
So I went down to Cruces on business for a previous job that I had, and while I was there, we ordered pizza with my company card because I was allowed to order food on, expensive. And when you order at Domino's,
we had already ordered pizza once that night, and
yeah,
Michael
we
showed
had
up and
already
he
ordered
said,
one.
and Michael showed up and said, "There's not enough pizza here."
Yeah, and then so when you order from Domino's, they like make you put in a name. So I believe we put Dr. Poop Johnson, or was it
I put it in, and then I told you after the fact, like, oh, by the way, your order is under Dr. Poop Johnson.
Yeah, which was great, and then it got way better because we ordered like lava cakes or something, and they ran out, so they had to call me, and per Domino's like regulations, they had to go, Mr. Poop Johnson, and then I could just hear everyone in the background of the Domino's laughing at the poor employee who had to call me, and I was just like, this is him, and just continued with the conversation all the way through like it was perfectly normal, which is awesome. But the best part about it was I then later had to expense that receipt where I then had to like explain to my boss why a pizza was delivered to Dr. Poop Johnson.
So, I like this because I wasn't part of this. I just heard about this story.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that, would be totally acceptable if we were all in, like, 10th grade.
Yeah.
But as all full-grown adults, because this happened, like, less than a year ago.
Yeah, like 6 months ago.
It's still acceptable.
And we laughed to tears about it.
Yeah, it was so funny.
And so then, for better or for worse, is it acceptable that, like, when you told this to your boss, it was probably like, oh, this is weird. But, like, if you were to tell that to me, I probably wouldn't bat an eye.
Yeah, you wouldn't at all. And it's way better.
Okay, good.
Because you appreciate the situation.
Like, the abs?
Yeah.
Okay.
He tried to shove his head through a brick wall.
Okay, Radon, did you ever watch...
No.
Hold on.
No, I have not.
Okay, everybody, you're about to learn something about me. It's that I've watched all of Jersey Shore,
As have I.
and I'm going to explain to you why. And it's because, like, if you watch it like you're watching a sitcom, like, it's a lot more entertaining,
Or even a documentary.
extremely depressing if you think about these people as being real. But there was an episode where Mike, the Situation, he's the dude who always lifts up his shirt and he has like these abs because that's the abs are called the Situation. That's actually like he's naming his.
Yeah, that's the situation, is the abs.
Yeah, we got a situation, and then like 10 Guido chicks, Guidettes, I don't know, jump all over him. Probably not.
Guidettes.
Guidas, Guidinas. Anyway, they're in Italy, and he's throwing this big temper tantrum because for being like a 26-year-old like dude, he's pretty childish. I mean, that's that whole show, really.
Yeah, that's really the whole show.
Some of them are actually like not really that bad. They're just kind of like having fun, hanging out, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he gets so upset that the housemates for not like adhering to like his ridiculous like behavior that he tries to headbutt a wall. But like they're in Italy, so none of it's drywall. It's all straight brick.
Yeah, it was an actual brick wall, not like a fake brick wall.
Yeah. So he headbutts it and gets a concussion. Has to go to the hospital in Italy.
Sprains his neck as well.
Sprains his neck. And then there's a shot of him like later that episode where like everybody goes out to get like pizza or whatever, and he's just sitting in his room in the dark with the neck brace on because no one wants to deal with him, and it's so pathetic.
Yeah, he's legitimately, he talks to the camera about how offended he is that nobody wants to take care of him or feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
And it's like, you headbutted a rock.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want from the world at that point?
Yeah, he just looks like a defeated pet who's been like put with the cone of shame, and he just sits there and waits for life to like take
That's
him.
100% what it is.
Yeah, it's pretty entertaining. Poor guy. I'm curious about all of those people because again, I don't want to dismiss anybody's life and like what situations going on. Like, I am fascinated by the upbringing of that particular subgroup.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I told you a while back that I heard a radio interview with JWoww and Snooki or whatever because they had some new show. But they're both married now and have kids or whatever, are pregnant or were pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
And the person who was interviewing them was like, well, you guys, they were talking, of course, about, like peeing in bars and all the stuff they used to do. And they're like, you guys haven't really been up to anything like that recently, and blah, blah, blah. And their response was like, yeah, because we're like, we have children and husbands, and we're not 22 drunk in a bar in Jersey. Like, what do you want from us?
Yeah. It's cool to see that they've, legitimately moved forward, and, they did their partying thing, and they had their Men of the Fame and all that, and now that they're just like, well, I'm done, so I'm going to just do the thing.
That's legitimately, and that's, not to harp on celebrities, the whole thing, but, you see the Justin Biebers and you see all that stuff, and they're like, oh, they're doing all this crazy stuff. They're insane. It's like, no, it's a 22-year-old with millions of dollars.
Yeah, what do you expect?
Traveling all over the world. What would you have done
if
you were in fucking Barcelona with $1 million in your pocket?
Yeah.
You probably would have gotten some shit.
Yep, that's exactly what would have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that the world really sets people up for this success of child stars, and then it totally denounces them the moment they do exactly what they're going to do as child stars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This would all be fixed if we had kids as executives.
Do you ever watch Kid President?
Yeah.
I like him. You ever watch him, Radon?
I don't think so.
He's just like this little black kid that dresses up in a nice suit, and he goes by Kid President, and he just gives good advice. He's just really I don't know. Check him out. He says really nice, empowering, kind words, and he's got this little smile, and it's so cute.
He's a charming little fucker.
He is. Also, there's one thing I want you guys to think about as well too.
Is it the movie Chairman of the Board with Carrot Top? Because that's what was popping into my head.
Oh, no, don't think about that. So you have a gamer tag, yeah? You're a profile, mgram20?
That's my email that you just put out there.
Well, nobody knows. At AOL.com.
ScudFTR is my PlayStation tag, and my Xbox Live, which I wish it was also my PlayStation one, is Space Manatee.
Oh, that's right. Space Manatee's a good one, though.
Space Manatee.
And then Radon, you have Mr. Radon.
Yep. Pretty much everything.
Gomez, Adams, and Wolf Smasher and stuff like that. But what's funny to me is that when Juanita and I were in the middle of watching Jersey Shore, this is not 10 years ago, it was 2010, 2011, we were watching the show together, just hanging out, doing whatever. And so when it was about this time that she ended up getting an Xbox 360, and got Xbox Live, and we're sitting there trying to think of a name for her. We're just going out with abstract stuff. And then she was like, what if it was JWoww? And I was like, that'd be really funny. So she said it as JWoww. And from that point on, every single tag that she's created for her Me and for her PlayStation Network ID and all these things is just JWoww. And the thing that it was all based off of a Jersey Shore character.
It's also really impressive that she gets it every time, too.
Yeah. It's never taken.
It's never taken.
Nope.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I love it. It makes me laugh.
I also have an old Xbox One that's Crackers Graham.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, Crackers Graham.
My first online username was Crispy Nugget, because that's what I named my dog in Secret of Evermore.
Crispy Nugget?
Yeah.
Like Chris P?
No, like something that has been cooked to a hard texture.
Okay. Those are good. I like really crispy nuggets. All right.
I've also been spending a good chunk of this time trying to think of a good power line joke, and I've got nothing.
You can't joke about Powerline. He just.
Yeah,
I know.
it's serious
'Cause
business.
I thought it'd be really funny to put a Goofy movie something on my tag, and then I got nothing to go from there because the Goofy movie is already so good.
It's really good. Hi, Dad Soup. That's one of those movies that always brings me to tears because, like, well, parents. Whenever I think about, like, like camaraderie or getting together or, like, being estranged from somebody and then, coming back to the realization that they're good for you, whether it's friends or parents or relationship or whatever, like, that always gets me. There's something about the reuniting of people that finally chose to understand each other that always gets me all misty. So Goofy movie gets me.
I like that movie.
just killed the conversation. Well, I was trying to think of another one of those movies where, because they always make like a straight-laced dad or something. Like the dad's almost always the bad guy in those movies.
Jungle to Jungle?
Yeah, Jungle to Jungle is a perfect example where it's just like, I have a job, which immediately makes him the bad guy.
Yeah.
He has a job. Didn't know this kid existed. He had zero obligations to this kid because he didn't know he was a person. He didn't know he existed. And then all of a sudden, a fucking 14-year-old or whatever is dropped on him, and he's like, I still have a fucking job. And he's the bad guy because he doesn't just quit his job day one when this kid shows up. Sorry.
That's fair.
It always bothers me that the fact that he stays a responsible, like, working man makes him like, oh, he's a workaholic. It's like, no, he was a single guy working full time who overnight got a kid. Like, that takes an adjustment period that is never given to that man in any of those movies.
Yeah.
Sorry. That was I get really, really heated about weird stuff.
Well, like, I mean, yeah, dad's being irresponsible. Like Beethoven, like the dad's a bad guy because he isn't like the dog ruining his house.
And how much money they spend on food, building it a fucking enclosure in the backyard.
Yeah.
It apparently mauls somebody as far as he knows. There's a lot of legal and financial issues that come with this dog, and because he's like, I don't know if we can swing this. We already got like 3 kids, and then everyone's like, oh, you're a bastard. It's like, what the fuck do you mean? Does the mom even work in that movie? I think it's just the dad, right?
Charles Grodin?
Yeah, it's just Grodin who has a job in the movie, right?
I think so.
So, like, the only guy who's actually making money is like, I don't think we can afford this fucking dog. And they're like, oh, you're just mean.
It's because Charles Grodin, like Michael Graham, give off a sort of grumpy vibe.
That's true. Even if he's happy, like, you can't tell.
Yeah.
You think he's
Poor
mad.
Grodin, man.
Kindred souls.
It's true.
So,
It's like, if I identify with one actor, it's Charles Grodin.
I feel like Gary Sinise is also, like, on the same wavelength as you.
Yeah, but I don't know. Sinise always kind of weirds me out.
That's fair.
He's
So
like
look-
a normal-looking Buscemi.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a really good way to put that.
Charles Grodin and John Lithgow.
I love John Lithgow.
Oh, yeah.
I do too. He's pro chunky soup. That's my big thing with John Lithgow.
What would
And Jay Sherman. Jay Sherman does not get enough love.
The critic?
Yeah. No, the guy who played him.
John
Oh.
Lovitz.
John Lovitz, sorry.
John Lovitz is pretty good.
Yeah. I will always love John Lovitz for the sole fact that he punched Andy Dick in the face.
Fuck yeah, he did. He punched him right in the face.
Between John Lovitz and Tony Shalhoub, who would win?
Lovitz, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Shalhoub is meek.
Okay, then how about between Jungle to Jungle versus
Highway to Heaven.
Heart and Souls.
versus Getting Even with Dad? And this is like a cast battle.
I mean, well, we got to break that down, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Getting Even with Dad. We're
Yeah,
gonna go
yeah.
first. We're gonna go with like adult stars, right? So we've
Okay.
got Ted Danson versus Tim Allen. I'm inclined to go Danson.
He's taller. He has more reach.
He's a southpaw. He's got the fire in his belly.
Yeah.
He does. 100%.
He dated the Whoopster. No, he was married to her, right?
Maybe.
Whoopi Goldberg?
That sounds kind of right.
That sounds like a thing that could have happened.
Are they still married?
That'd be weird if they were just still married and no one cared anymore.
Yeah. He dressed up in blackface.
Personal life. Danson is a vegan for both health and ethical reasons.
Mm.
Okay.
He never married Goldberg, I don't think. I think they were just dating.
They just touched butts?
Yeah, and then he did a lot of racist stuff.
Racism.
Yeah. Yeah, he's had 3 wives.
3 wives.
Yeah. His first wife was... Wait. Are women sometimes named Randall?
Women?
Yeah.
None that I'm aware of.
It says that his... on Wikipedia, granted, but it says his first spouse was Randall Randy Gosh.
I've heard Randy as a girl's name, like R-A-N-D-I.
Yeah.
Randall.
Okay, yeah, I guess it was... that is a woman.
Okay.
Weird.
So there you go.
There you go.
Danson's current wife is actress Mary Steenburgen, whom he met on the set of the movie Pontiac Moon
That's
in
right.
1993, and became the stepfather to Steenburgen's daughter and son from her previous marriage to actor Malcolm McDowell. Ted Danson is Malcolm McDowell's kid's stepdad.
Hollywood.
Weird.
Twisted chain of connections. Okay. Okay.
All right, so we're saying that Danson beats Allen, I assume. Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I like Tim Allen, but I think without his tools, Danson's got the advantage.
Okay. I can't even figure out which one of these is the kid from Jungle to Jungle.
Because he's probably old now, right?
Yeah.
It's Sam Neill.
Sam Neill's the kid.
No, not
Sam
Sam
Hun-
Neill.
Sam
Sorry.
Huntington?
Sam Huntington. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
So Sam Huntington versus Macaulay Culkin.
Like at that time or now?
John.
I feel like if we're talking now, Macaulay Culkin, he's been through the trenches, man.
Yeah, but he's also like 70 pounds.
That's also true, but I bet he would not hesitate to stab you ever.
Without
just,
emotion on his
with,
face.
used
too. Just
needles.
Stone face.
Exactly. Yeah, he would find a petrified kitchen knife
Why is
with
it petrified?
dried blood on it, and just that would be it. He would just go for you immediately. Is what I think would happen. I don't know enough about Sam Huntington as a kid, but I'm assuming that if he were feral, that he would probably have the advantage.
I only recognize one more actor from Getting Even with Dad, and I guess I recognize a few from Jungle to Jungle, actually.
This is where we progressively lose more and more.
Wait, it's that guy? Okay, so Saul Rubinek, ew, I hate that guy, versus Martin Short.
Weird. I don't know if I know Saul Rubinek.
Saul Rubinek is usually the older-looking Jewish guy who's kind of evil, but not explicitly evil. Let's see, it's a good example. What did I see him in recently? This is a weird conversation we're having.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in a lot of stuff, and none of it is like noteworthy enough for me to be like, oh, have you seen?
The dude from Warehouse 13.
Yeah. He was.
That's all I got.
Yeah. He's been in a lot of stuff, but none of it is like a role that I could spit out and you'd be like, oh yeah, that guy. Unless you're familiar with Getting Even with Dad.
I'm not familiar enough with it. I realized though that we gave our wise parting words like 45 minutes ago, and then we started talking about movies battling each other.
Well, now we're into the regular podcast.
That's
we
true.
got over all the emotional shit. Now we're on to the good stuff.
That's fair.
Saul Rubinek was born in a refugee camp in Germany.
Jeez.
No wonder he's. How do you guys feel about this whole Hitler? Historians saying Hitler had a weird double urethral micropenis in one testicle.
I heard a long time ago that he had deformed genitals, and I remember, like, this is like 25 years ago. I remember reading this in like some pamphlet or booklet somewhere, and so I never thought it was weird, like in the regard that like it's new information. I just thought, oh yeah, I heard his stuff was messed up.
Yeah, see, like, I saw that article pop up, and it was like, the truth about Hitler's penis was what it was titled, and I just went, nope, and kept going. Like, that knowledge is, like, never entered my brain until you said it.
Yep, and I told you all the details.
And I didn't need to know. I just didn't.
But now you do. You're that much smarter.
Don't
So-
you want to know where the second urethra was?
Oh.
No! I don't
Ocarina.
care!
Oh.
Also, Saul Rubinek was in a movie called Oy Vey, My Son is Gay. So that's the thing that happened.
Oh. Okay. So we probably should wrap it up at this point. Not because I don't want to keep talking about this, but because I think user interest is waning. Now that we've moved on to the more serious stuff, but I think doing this periodically is actually something really good. Because it's almost sort of like a group therapy in a sense, and you're sort of just keeping yourself in check and remembering why life is good and why things are okay, and that like you don't gotta worry, and I don't know, it's good for me, and so, well, maybe that's selfish, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it because if it's good for me, then I can be better for others.
What's
And
good for the goose is good for Gamera.
For Goslin from Darkwing Duck,
I thought she was cute.
she is cute.
Michael Radon saw a truck.
I was waiting for you to notice that.
Sorry, I was working really hard on finding a good rodent picture. It took a lot of effort because most of them were him smiling.
Yeah,
So I had
unfortunately,
to find one where you're just like,
it's cut off your title too. Like I can read it because I'm good at like figuring out what it would say based on the tops of the letters, but
the fiscally responsible and judged for it.
yeah, and all I can really read is fiscally responsible and.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't like that it doesn't let you edit the images you upload for your
Yeah.
logo.
Yeah.
But because it keeps squishing, like Kathy Ireland was weirdly warped.
She was.
Yeah.
It's like you tried to put her in a circle.
Yeah, it's like I don't need that.
She will not be contained.
Kathy Ireland will not be contained.
Nope. That's her thing, is not doing that.
Can we retroactively change the name of this episode to Kathy Ireland will not be contained?
No.
No, but when we can't think of an episode title in like 4 weeks, we can.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
Here's what you
Charles
do,
Grodin-
Michael. Here's what you do: is you write it down on a Post-it note and leave it there.
And that's it.
Yeah. That's true. Just do that.
Because then people are gonna ask you, "What does this mean?" And it's gonna enter your sort of conscious lexicon of ideas.
Radon, what was the movie I was rambling at you about in the Hastings? Really randomly.
Well, I know we talked a lot about Night of the Comet at Rasco's Barbecue.
We did go off on Night of the Comet.
Oh, it was Teen Beach 2.
Yeah. John, going back to the earlier thing with me rambling about movies and getting really passionate about weird stuff.
Okay.
I was pretty much yelling at Trent and Radon about Night of the Comet because I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's terrible.
I don't think so. No. It sounds
and-
wonderful, though.
And we were looking in Hastings, and there was the Just Dance Disney edition, and it had Radon did like a throwaway joke about, oh, you could like sing to or dance to Teen Beach Movie or whatever, and I went off on him for like 15 minutes about how I don't approve of the ending of Teen Beach 2 because it destroys the entire franchise. Like, I really, really passionately was yelling at him.
Yep.
So Mass Effect 3 and Teen Beach 2.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are the-
Same writer.
the-
Jennifer Hepworth.
So, to give you a summary of what I told Radon, and then we'll get off the podcast because I'm derailing us again. So, Teen Beach Movie is a movie where there's two surfers. One of them has to go off to school. They're dating, and she's torn about it, and then they get sucked into a movie called, I think it's Teen Beach something or other. But then they're in the beach movie. It's a musical. It's set in the 60s. A lot of silly stuff happens. And then in the second movie, the characters from the movie come to our world. A bunch of silly stuff happens. They have to get them back to the movie before the movie world disappears.
Okay.
So when they send them back to the movie, they change the movie somehow, and it rewrites time to where the first movie and all of the second movie up until the end never happened. And it's like, then why did I just spend this time watching these movies? The characters who were originally dating and in love have never met each other. The entire the entire point of the first movie and second movie of them, growing as people, because the second movie is about them trying to handle their relationship as they're like going to college and like stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like how to adjust with like adult relationship and responsibilities and stuff, and which they come to terms with at the end of the movie, is then erased, so they didn't actually come to terms with anything because none of that ever happened.
Is that like a split timeline kind of thing?
Yeah, well, yeah, they sent the characters back to the movie, which takes place in the 60s. So in the 60s movie, they changed it to where the main character, the female lead becomes the main character, thus empowering a whole generation of women later on, to the point where I guess if this chick is like a confident female, she never meets this surfer guy or something. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. And then at the end of it, even though all the musical characters are gone, everybody on the beach watching the movie busts out into song, and then the chick in the movie throws a leather jacket through the movie screen to the main girl, and everyone's like, yeah, that's perfectly fine and normal, and no one's going to fucking question it. It bothers me, John. They're on Netflix. Watch them and get as angry as I am.
I'll watch them. What if I like it?
I liked the movies until the end of the second movie.
That's fair. Okay.
And I just wanted
Sorry.
to make fun of Teen Beach too, but I didn't know. That...
You have to be very careful, especially because the more obscure the movie, the more likely that I'm going to start yelling. Because my problem is I watch something once, and it's in my brain forever.
It's fair.
That's really all I got.
Okay. Done. Okay. So what I want to do to actually finalize this is thank everybody who's watched. Thank everybody who's here. Thank both Michaels for being some of my favorite, most
Michaels.
Michaels on the planet.
We're the two best Michaels.
Yeah.
What about Michael Showalter and Michael Ian Black?
Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up.
You
I
bitch.
actually do think Michael
You
Ian Black is
bitch.
overrated, but that's I am to sketch comedy what Michael is to movies.
Fair.
Michael Ian Black is pretty solid.
He's
I think he's overrated.
I'm not saying he's amazing. I'm saying he's pretty solid.
I love him.
And most of his personal projects that I've seen, not a huge fan of.
Yeah.
Like, just his straight stand-up. Some good jokes in it, but overall, meh.
He's better with the group.
He's got one-off moments, especially in, like, the 10 and stuff like that, where he delivers and he fucking destroys. And again, he needs that dynamic of those certain people to work off of.
I think he plays off of people really well. Anyway, other Michaels. Yeah, thank you guys for joining tonight, and thank you for helping me sort of out of this, because I'm feeling leaves better. It's really, again, depression, anxiety. These things can happen for a variety of reasons, and a lot of it really did stem from
Black people.
a somewhat traumatic relationship experience last year that was seemingly very minor. You know, it was something that just was not communicated very well with me, and it ended up doing a lot of damage. And that's, you know, things can happen with people, and it's good to be very careful about how you communicate and you know, what you choose to give to people and what you leave them with. You know, I won't go into details of exactly sort of like the difficulties of that, but, you know, it affected me, and it changed, you know, a couple of my perspectives in a way that just made it difficult for me to process certain things and to trust certain things. But the bottom line is I'm here, I've got a great support system, and it's wonderful for me to be able to outreach that to people if I'm able, for mutual benefit. And I'm happy to have the opportunity to do something like this with you guys, where I can actually open up very publicly, talk about things, answer questions, and, you know, hopefully that makes any sort of impact or influence on somebody for the better. Even if it's one person for one small thing, even that's a difference. And that's where we gotta, you know, keep trying. So if all of us do that, that's a lot of little differences, and that adds up to a big one. So thank you guys for joining me tonight and allowing this to be a more proactive sort of, I mean, it's treatment. It's a medication for me, is to outreach and talk with my best friends about video games and life and, you know, how I'm feeling, and that's good.
Yeah.
So,
You're good. You're a good person. You're a good man.
yeah, you know, I'm all right.
You're arguably too good for your own good.
Whoa. How good is he allotted?
Yeah, what
I'm just
percent
saying.
good can I have?
You care too much about people, John. Charles Grodin would not approve.
Well, at the same time, I think there's that balance where Grodin can dislike them, and I will offer my support. Like Grodin has thrown by the wayside.
He's your nemesis.
He is. But we need that balance. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing. Yep.
They're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
John's like, I found a St. Bernard, and he's like, we can't afford a St. Bernard.
He's the Doc Ock to your John Stamos.
That's right. That's the two opposing forces. Age-old battle. Fuller House starts in like 2 days.
You gonna watch it?
I don't know. I mean, I'll probably. Like, you know, I'm not crazy invested in those series, that show specifically. But, you know, I enjoyed the other ones when I was younger. I don't think I was like a fanatic by any means. But
Isn't Saget not even in it?
no, he's in it.
The Olsens aren't in it.
Yeah.
Because what the fuck are they doing?
Well, what's interesting though is like the reason they actually said this made sense, and it was that they were so young for that show that it didn't have the same sort of intrinsic value to them. Like they felt that they wouldn't really add much to the new show other than nostalgia for everybody else, but to them the reuniting didn't have the same effect. Like it wasn't something that they were part of in the same way. But they also said, you know, like they're not really actresses anymore. They're just doing their own whatever. And
Same.
so it's, you know, just not really on their
Here's
radar.
the awkward thing too: is that they both played one character. So
Yeah, that is also weird.
Yeah. And they could be like some sort of weird like doppelganger episode.
See, I was just setting up some throwaway Olsen jokes, and then you gave me a legitimate answer.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to make fun of them for whatever random fucking movies they did earlier in their career and then move on.
How the West was fun.
Yeah, that. And
New York Minute.
what's the one where they're like witches? And they hang out with the
License to
dude from
Drive?
Troll.
I don't remember.
That's the Corey Haim, Corey Feldman movie.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
Double Corys, double Olsens.
Ooh.
I know.
They did the soccer one. They did a lot of ones where they were like parent trapping people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was kind of their thing for a while. Just parent trapping. Is that like catfishing for adults?
I don't think so. Because they're not. I guess they are tricking them into thinking they're somebody else.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. That's catfishing. Except without the internet.
Yeah.
I love you
It's
guys.
just like,
Love you
I'm
too,
your
John.
daughter.
That's all I care about is like this happening.
Just a discussion of the Olsens.
Yeah, well, it's nice because like I do hang out with a fair amount of people that if I were to say, you know, like Martin Short, Chevy Chase, they're like, what? But if I talk about this with you guys, obviously, like I could go back even further than, you know, our era, and you guys probably have a good idea what's going on. So I like that we can have these conversations.
No, I was in the shop the other day, and I was talking about Dr. Katz,
Yeah.
and I just got a sea of blank stares. No one knew what the fuck I was talking about. I just had that awkward thing of like, there's a animated show on Comedy Central. You know.
Squiggle Vision.
It's funny because like they're gonna know like iterations down the road that ultimately end up in John Benjamin, and they'll go, oh yeah, Archer or whatever, Bob's Burgers, and it's like there was, and you know his association with Dr. Katz was like minimal, but Dr. Katz into home movies into John Benjamin, and you know then it kept sort of going that way.
Yeah.
You're like throwing out the origins of like a lot of this particular brand.
Mm-hmm. And it's just like nobody knows. No one knows. It's the worst part about managing this store is that no one knows what the hell I'm talking about ever. Ever. Like I'm gonna tomorrow when I'm here, I'm gonna throw out some like over the top references and just really just some random Stallone, maybe throw a cliffhanger in there.
Yeah.
Oh, you were talking about literal over the top references.
Yeah.
Cool, like
Over the top.
I realized that could have got confusing as I was saying it, which is why I tried to go to cliffhanger to clarify. but then it was just as bad because I could just throw out a cliffhanger. We need to pick a movie for me to do references of tomorrow and see how many people get it.
If you do cliffhanger, no one's gonna know.
Yeah. I'm gonna say Overboard.
Ooh, Overboard. Really, anything with Goldie Hawn, I could probably do.
Stop or my mom will shoot.
What's the one with Burt Reynolds where he gets paired up with that kid?
Cop and a Half.
Cop and a Half.
I know this because I dated a girl whose brother auditioned for Cop and a Half, and he didn't get the part because he was white, and so he harbors like a secret racist pain.
Oh. Oh boy, this my favorite part is when it just becomes like this. We're just pulling all like the media references we've accumulated over the past lifetime.
Yeah, we're just vomiting.
Dude, I know we're trying to end, but I have more to say. One of the odd customers came in the other day, and he was talking to me. I was just working on something. He was talking. I was giving the general like, yeah, yeah, like, you know, because they're not actually talking to me. They're just talking, and I happen to be there. Like, it could have been anyone sitting there, and he would have said the exact same fucking things he said. But he was sitting there, he's talking about Star Wars. I was like, yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. I didn't think it was as good as everyone else thought, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you know what ruined that movie? Fucking affirmative action. And I was like, this took a turn. Like, he's like, affirmative action ruined that movie. I was like, I was looking at him, and he is so ethnic. And I'm like, dude, you're on the wrong side of this line. Like, it's just like, I was like working on taking apart a Super Nintendo, and I actually just like stopped mid-screw. It was just like, what? Like, what are we talking about?
That's a statement, yeah.
You can't just throw out fucking affirmative action in the middle of the game store, man. What are we talking about?
Dang.
People exist.
That's how we end the podcast.
Yep.
Fucking affirmative action.
That's it. Thank you guys for watching. I think we had a really good audience tonight, and I hope a lot of good information was put out there. I hope a lot was hopefully learned and heard. And once again, I'm just a dude with my own experiences, my own hardships, my own path. And if anybody ever needs anything from me, I will do my best to provide, because there's nothing worse than needing something and not being able to have that when you need it. So if anybody ever needs me for anything, to talk, to hang out, to relax, to take your mind off of things, to decompress, to vent, whatever it is, there's no time that I will not give that if I'm able to. So stopping by the store, hit me up on Facebook, send me a message, an email, a text, whatever it is. And we'll always be around. But I want you guys to check out more of the information that we have at garetro.com, at facebook.com/GamersAnonymous, the Cyberzone podcast. And a lot of this also gets hosted by our good friends Morgan and Adrian at screwthetruth.com, where they run their own phenomenal podcast called Amcast. And there's a whole bunch of other good stuff to check out there as well, too. They transcribe. They don't transcribe. I think I say that every time.
You do.
Okay, good. That would be a lot of work. But they record these and upload these as audio files for you to take with you on your lunch break. And you can listen to the whole podcast in 45 minutes if you play it at high speeds. So,
if you're at Planet Fitness and you laugh, don't drop the weights. They'll kick you out.
Exactly. Yeah, the lunk alarm will go off. All right, and you guys have anything to?
Especially if your laugh is.
Exactly. If you just grunt, you flex really hard. All right. All right, you guys good? Anything else?
Nah, I think that's good.
Wonderful.
Watch Heart and Souls. It's got some good Grodin in it.
Watch Heart and Souls. Your microphone moved away from your mouth, but
Watch the movie Heart and Souls.
there's Charles.
Robert Downey Jr., Charles Grodin. It's good. Shows another side of Charles Grodin.
All right. And on next week's Cyber Zone podcast, we're going to lead with the question, who would win, Robert Downey Jr. or Harry Connick Jr.? Stay tuned.
Whoa.
Until next time, everybody, have a zone. A
Don't.
cyber zone.
Okay, have that.